Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows.
How you doing?
I'm good. We're joined yet again by Henrique Jaime. Welcome, Henry.
Well, I thank you all for having me.
Of course. This marks your third appearance with us here at Watch, Review, Repeat. And this is our second bonus episode that we're doing for our Patreon subscribers. And it is the second in a series of 3 episodes centered around the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I'd say, about a month ago or so, maybe a little bit longer than that, we did a whole episode on the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 1. And we're here for Phase 2.
Yeah, should be pretty good. I think things start wrapping up from this point on.
In a massive
good.
way.
Yeah, I would agree with both of you there. So just a little bit of housekeeping. This is a bonus episode, which means that it's going to be a timed exclusive for Patreon subscribers. So if you're listening to this now, if you're listening to this now and you're a patron, thank you so much for helping us out on a monthly basis. And if you're listening to this sometime down the road, that means that you're not a patron of us, but that's okay. You're obviously still getting access to this. You're just listening to it a little bit later. But if you are interested in listening to our third episode that we're going to do as part of this series, it's really easy. Just go to watchreviewrepeat.com/premium or patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat, and you'll get access to all of our bonus episodes and early access to all of our regular episodes. So get on it, I say. With that, let's just do a brief recap of Phase 1, given that was a 3-hour plus episode that we did.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people are going to go back and listen to this as a refresher for this one. So Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 1 is 6 movies. It's Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, the First Avenger, and then finally Marvel's The Avengers. And, really, what it boils down to is that the Avengers have been assembled. We've seen Iron Man, basically be created. Tony Stark has gone through his evolution, his personal evolution to become Iron Man, to become a superhero, to turn his back on being the weapons manufacturer that he was, and kind of be a centerpiece really for a superhero team known as the Avengers. And rounding out the crew, of course, is the Hulk himself, Bruce Banner, as a gamma scientist who. An experiment goes wrong, and he turns into a big green rage monster, capable of destruction on a massive level. And we've got Thor, the god of thunder, and Asgardian, and Captain America, a good old American super soldier. And we get a little bit of introduction to the last 2 members in a couple of the movies prior to the Avengers, but rounding out the squad, of course, Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff, super spy for S.H.I.E.L.D., and another spy for S.H.I.E.L.D., Hawkeye, Clint Barton. So that's kind of where things are. I mean, the Avengers kind of shakes up the status quo, certainly for the universe. I mean, to that point, with obviously, it's all heightened reality, of course, but things are relatively grounded and normal, and then, boom, you get an alien invasion led by an Asgardian, and let's just say that things are getting a little bit crazy. I would say the universe has certainly opened up quite a bit more than it had previously. So that leads us to Phase 2, right?
That's it, man.
I think there's a pre-Avengers. Obviously, there's 3 phases now, but there's kind of this like pre-Avengers divide and everything post-Avengers. Like even for the TV shows and everything, like. It's a completely different world after the.
There's a giant gaping hole in the sky with aliens pouring out of it.
That just changes everything.
Well, I mean, you think about, in the real world right now, if an Iron Man came about, I mean, it would be pretty radical thing to happen, but it wouldn't exactly be the game changer that fucking aliens pouring out of a portal would be. So yeah,
exactly.
So. I guess it only feels natural that the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 2 begins with another Iron Man movie, Iron Man 3, released pretty much a year after the first Avengers movie came out on May 3rd, 2013. Written by Drew Pearce and Shane Black, and directed by Shane Black, who previously was known for his work on Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Went on to work on The Nice Guys, which is an excellent movie. Both of those are excellent movies, don't get me wrong. But certainly an interesting choice for an Iron Man movie. Robert Downey Jr. returning as Tony Stark / Iron Man along for the ride. Gwyneth Paltrow, Don Cheadle, Guy Pearce, and Ben Kingsley, and Johnny V, of course. Can't forget about Johnny V.
Johnny V's a badass in this one, too. He's got a fucking mullet with a bull tie or whatever it's called.
He's the head of security, too.
Yes. He's on top of his game.
He's moving up in the world. Just for our listeners, we're going to do something a little bit different with this episode here. We're going to try to get a little bit more detailed with the plots for each of these movies so that we can kind of structure this episode in a way that, even if you haven't seen a lot of these movies very recently, we can kind of get you up to speed. We're not going to go over every little detail in the movie, but hopefully we can give you guys a broad enough basis to really kind of work from when we start talking about things that happen in the movie, characters, anything along those lines. So I'm going to start here with Iron Man 3, and I will read my summary, and hopefully you guys don't fall asleep. I'm trying to keep it relatively succinct, but we'll see how it goes. So
won't pull a Bruce Banner on you.
See, people don't understand that reference yet.
Yeah.
Haunted by his experiences during the events of the Avengers, Tony Stark buries himself in his work, building dozens of Iron Man suits and causing friction with his girlfriend Pepper Potts. When a terrorist calling himself the Mandarin injures Stark's friend and security chief, Happy Hogan, portrayed by Johnny V, in his latest bombing attack, Stark issues a televised threat to the Mandarin, who then retaliates in kind, destroying Stark's home and leaving him abandoned in Rose Hill, Tennessee, with nothing but his wits available to him. Stark eventually pieces together that the Mandarin is nothing more than a front for the experiments conducted by a scientist by the name of Aldrich Killian, a man that Stark once spurned in his former life as a weapons dealer. Partnering with his best friend James Rhodes, Tony Stark sets out to rescue the President of the United States and Pepper Potts, who have both been kidnapped by the villainous Aldrich Killian. Tony initiates the House Party Protocol and utilizes the dozens of Iron Man suits he's crafted to take out Killian once and for all. In the end, Rhodes rescues the President, and Stark rescues Pepper and cures her of the extremis virus that Killian infected her with, and Tony undergoes surgery to remove the shrapnel on his heart, realizing that with or without the suit, he is Iron Man.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Well said.
So, Iron Man 3. It's an interesting movie, isn't it?
Yeah, it's such a I don't know, kind of, I guess, polarizing movie.
It's definitely a polarizing movie. That is certainly something that can be said about this. I like Iron Man 3. I don't love Iron Man 3. I think it's the second best Iron Man movie. I think it's better than Iron Man 2 personally.
Yeah,
but I think it's a pretty big step down from the first Iron Man. I like the idea behind it, but it is also one of those things where I'm kind of just like, I honestly think I probably would have enjoyed a more straightforward, a more traditional approach to how these characters, have usually, how you'd think that they might be handled. I mean, this is a movie that very much just kind of goes for the opposite of what you'd expect with any of it. And certainly, I think that's just kind of this Shane Black in it, is that he was very much concerned with, let's make a Tony Stark movie and less about less of an Iron Man movie, and that would understandably be polarizing for some, because it's I don't know, I mean, it's an interesting approach, certainly coming off the heels of the Avengers, where you've got nothing but massive superhero action. You've got Iron Man kind of being the main character in some ways of the Avengers, and then here you kind of take a step back and go for a more personal journey with him. It's I don't know, like I said, it's interesting. What did you guys think about it?
I thought it was all right. I really enjoyed that little kid. I enjoyed that dynamic. I think that was the best part of the movie, was Tony interacting with that little kid in Kentucky or wherever the hell he landed at.
It's Tennessee, man.
Tennessee, that's what it was.
Yeah, come on.
Someone didn't listen to my fucking summary.
I fell asleep, okay? No, but it's okay. It's an okay movie. You know what I mean? I can't. You got a fire-breathing bad guy, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that was something.
Yeah, that was something. The suits are cool, but like I said, I think the best part of the best part of the movie for me was the interaction with him and that kid. I thought it felt organic, and it felt I don't know, it just kind of felt real, you know. And other than that, I didn't really have a lot to say about this one. It's a forgettable movie, at least for me. It is. I don't really. Besides that interaction with the kid, I can't really recall a whole lot. Besides homeboy breathing fire, spitting fire out of his mouth. So that's all I got on that one.
Yeah, I get so conflicted with this movie because I think as a concept I like it, but then as in the way it was executed, I guess I didn't like it. And a lot of it I think comes from just the source material a little bit. It's because the whole extremist plot line, I'm not exactly sure what it was about it, but I just did not like that story, even in the comics. And I know they changed it for this movie, but I don't like the villain because I don't know. So a lot of people get mad about the Mandarin not being the real villain, you know, because you get Ben Kingsley and he's this terrifying terrorist, and then it turns out he's an actor, as you said, and then the real villain is Killian the scientist, who has extremists, can breathe fire and is indestructible, and he's just not exciting. And the extremist soldiers are not like exciting to me. Their powers are like, I don't know, I can't really define it. Like they heal fast,
they're
blow up.
lava people. I think lava people is a good way to put it.
But they can also like heal really fast, and they explode certain times. I don't know, I have a lot of issues mainly with the antagonists of the film. I thought Tony Stark and obviously Robert Downey Jr., the actor, was great. You know, he's always great as Iron Man. And seeing him as Tony Stark was actually kind of nice, seeing how his superpower is not his suits. You know, that's kind of the movie builds up to, like, he makes all these suits and they're all fantastic, and he has like Mark 45, or like how many suits does he have in this one? Like 40 something?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, but then in the end, like, his real superpower, I guess, are his wits and his brain, which I like that aspect of it, and I liked Rhodey in it for what his role, but it just, the villain, and yeah, honestly, the kid kind of bothered me too. I don't know what it was. I just didn't like the kid.
I guess you guys weren't connected.
I think it's because a lot of people were theorizing that he was Peter Parker, he was this and that, and I think that kind of pissed me off.
He's Iron Lad.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, he's just a kid. Like, let him be a kid. And I don't know. It's the kid and the villains. What were the aspects of the movie that bothered me?
Yeah, that's fair. I think I'll side with Andrew. I think that Robert Downey Jr. and that kid have a pretty fun connection. I think that the whole basically second act that takes place in Tennessee, I think, is interesting, and I think that they're a fun pairing. I think I'll agree with you on the villains, though. I'm not even bothered really by the Mandarin twist. You know, the whole idea of the Mandarin kind of being this front. I thought that was pretty clever. I think it's a clever subversion of, possible issues that you'd run into if you did, a one-to-one realization of the Mandarin character from the comic books. Probably wouldn't play very well in China, which is a pretty big market, to be fair. Yeah. That said, I think that it does feel a bit wasted to me that, instead of having a villain that has basically these 10 magical rings, I still think the idea of having technology versus magic could make for a really interesting dynamic. And I think that there's ways that they could have adapted the Mandarin character that fixes some of the problematic aspects of it. But, is a completely different direction than what they went with here. that's just coming from me as probably someone that likes comic books, that has familiarity with the source material in that regard, and that's something for me that I'm like, oh, I probably would have preferred that. But I did think that they handled it pretty well, at least in terms of the twist itself. I think where it falters, at least for me, is that Killian isn't that compelling of an antagonist as the final boss, if you will. It's nothing against Guy Pearce. I'm a little confused because he's not playing a 90-year-old man for some reason.
He didn't
I think
have
that's
makeup
odd.
on? Is that what you're saying?
They decided not to put pounds of makeup on him and turn him into a 90-year-old man. That seems like an obvious casting choice to me. Just a little Prometheus joke for you
Iron Man
guys.
3 directed by Ridley Scott.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, he's just kind of not super compelling. I mean, he breathes fire. He does do that. We can certainly say that happens, but it feels like a waste. And I think a lot of it, what makes it feel like a waste to me, especially now that I kind of know more of the background information on it, is that Rebecca Hall's Maya Hansen character was supposed to be the main villain of this until good old Ike Perlmutter, the racist, sexist shitbag that he is, basically intervened and said, no, we can't have a female villain because female toys don't sell. So then you get some behind-the-scenes fuckery to reconfigure this movie into having a male villain in the form of Killian, and you have a Maya Hansen character that really serves very little purpose in this movie, which is unfortunate because I think Rebecca Hall is great. But again, she does nothing in this movie. She has sex with Tony Stark in the beginning. She comes back to warn him, and then she's like, "Oh, she's bad. Oh no, she's dead. Okay, all right." That's a bit of a weird turn for her character. So I and kind of knowing that that's kind of the case, that makes me feel like, okay, I think it would have been a far more interesting movie if they had gone into the other direction. I mean, they would have had to do a lot more with their character, and who's to say if that would have made it better, but I certainly think that would have been a more interesting direction. And I don't know, maybe it's just one of those things of knowing that there's something different makes it seem more alluring for some reason. It doesn't necessarily mean that it would have been better, but that's just kind of my takeaway from it. But I think that it's got some good set pieces in it. I think that it's an enjoyable movie overall. I think that certainly the closing beat of Tony kind of realizing that, hey, I am Iron Man. I don't need to be reliant upon my technology. I can kind of do my own thing, and I'm still Iron Man. Tony Stark and Iron Man are one and the same. I know a lot of people kind of interpret that as like, oh shit, he's retiring, which obviously, given that he's appeared in like 15 movies past this, is obviously not the case. But, I think that certainly something like the Air Force One rescue sequence, I think is pretty great. I think that the house party protocol at the end, when you see, all these, 50 suits that he has kind of lying around, kind of seeing them used, it's a fun set piece. It's just not all of it totally gels. I think that, the way that certainly some of the other Marvel movies have, and certainly the way that we probably wanted it to. So,
yeah, no, like by no means I think this is a bad movie. I think it's actually a pretty good movie. It's just a few issues that I had with it that kept me from really being able to say like this is a great Iron Man movie like Iron Man 1 was.
Yeah, I don't know. And I didn't particularly enjoy this movie. I didn't think it was great.
I think it's fine. Yeah, I think it's fine.
All right, it's fine. You heard it here first, folks. Well, I have, I wanted to talk about post credits for all these movies. This one will be pretty easy because this is kind of a nothing scene. Tony's been narrating the whole time, and as it turns out, he's been narrating to his good pal, his science bro, Bruce Banner, who has fallen asleep throughout the whole story. I mean, how rude, right?
Yeah, who would do that?
I don't know. I mean, it's just incredibly rude. But yeah, it's kind of a nothing scene.
Was he reading a synopsis? Essentially, he was reading a synopsis.
I mean, he was. Yeah, it was in effect kind of reading a synopsis. Yeah.
Bruce and I are on the same.
The synopsis of his life.
Yep.
It's fun seeing obviously Ruffalo pop up, but certainly nothing game changing as far as building a narrative for the future or anything like that. So, do you guys have anything to add for the post credits? Are you guys ready to move on to favorite moments?
No.
I'm ready for favorite moments, man.
All right, well, I'll let you start then, Andrew. What's your favorite moment of Iron Man 3?
My favorite moment when you find out what this movie's all about.
When the credits start?
No. Favorite moment when I decided that this movie, I've seen all this movie's going to offer me, and I knew from the get-go, and that's kind of the way I'm going to be doing my favorite moments for these movies. For phase 2 is I'm going to do moments that define the movie for me.
Okay.
All right. So favorite moment for me, the most defining moment for this film is when Homeboy takes off his shirt or does whatever he's doing and he breathes fire. At that point, when he spits that fireball out of his mouth, I know that this movie, I'm done with this movie. I said, holy shit. What the fuck is going on? And I hang it up. So that for me is the most defining. You ask me, hey man, what's going on in Iron Man 3? What do you think about Iron Man 3? Well, I was like, well, the villain breathes fire. You know, that's what you got. That's the movie for me. So that's my favorite moment. That's the most defining moment of that film for myself. What do you guys? What's your favorite spot?
Henry?
I like the roadie scenes in this. When he becomes War Machine, or he goes from being War Machine to being the Iron Patriot, and the news footage kind of like makes fun of him. It's like, oh, he's just rebranding, and he goes around like trying to find the Mandarin, and he just kind of finds some people, just like what he thought was innocent people at first. But yeah, actually, the roadie scenes in this.
War Machine 68, War Machine rocks.
Yeah, no, like he had some good jokes. Like I liked him a lot.
All right, fair enough. My favorite moment is the Air Force One rescue sequence. The barrel full of monkeys.
Catching all the people.
Yeah. I think it's a pretty inventive sequence, and it's a fun moment. I like that. I like kind of heroes being heroes. I think Marvel's actually really good about them like letting heroes kind of do their thing, but it's less of a punchy, smashy sequence and more of a hey, he's I guess he's not
save these people.
Yeah, I mean, as we find out, obviously he's remote piloting I think the Mark 42 in that sequence, but still, I think it's a really visually impressive sequence. And there's a featurette on the Blu-ray of it, which is actually really cool. Just kind of showing the way that they partially shot. I mean, they had someone drop out of like a plane, and they partially shot it, and just used a lot of CG to kind of doctor Air Force One in there and bits and pieces of it. But a lot of it was surprisingly kind of practically filmed, so I thought that was actually really neat to see. So that's my favorite moment. Any parting words on Iron Man 3, or shall we move on to our next film?
We can move on.
Yeah, let's keep going.
All right, Thor: The Dark World, released November 8th, 2013, written by Christopher Yost, Christopher Marcus, and Stephen McFeely, and directed by Alan Taylor, starring Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman, Tom Hiddleston, Anthony Hopkins, and Christopher Eccleston. Andrew, we're going to let you take the lead on the summary this time.
All right.
Y'all want to fall asleep?
Stay awake for this.
Have at it.
All right. Here we go. Let me correct my sitting position here. Oh, because I'm about to read you a fucking story, guys.
Right.
Story time. I'm loving it.
2 years after the destruction of the Bifrost and the first film, the 9 realms begin to align, opening gateways to each of the realms. Jane Foster, in researching the gateways, enters a portal where she is infected by an ancient weapon known as the Ether. Thor returns to Earth in search of Jane, who has moved beyond Heimdall's vision, and upon finding her, she releases a shockwave caused by the Ether. Thor quickly leaves with Jane and takes her to Asgard, where Odin quickly realizes the presence of the Ether within her, and warns that it will not only kill Jane, but it also heralds a catastrophic prophecy. Eons ago, Bor, father of Odin, clashes with the Dark Elves. What? Eons ago, Bor, father of Odin, clashes with the Dark Elf, Malekith. Malekith, who seeks to unleash a weapon known as the Ether on the Nine Realms. After conquering Malekith's forces, including enhanced warriors called the Cursed, on their home world of Svartalfheim, Bor safeguards the Ether within a stone column. Unbeknownst to Bor, Malekith, his lieutenant Algrim, and a handful of dark elves escape into suspended animation. This is where things get crazy in this movie. Malekith and the other dark elves are awakened by the Ether's release and go to Asgard to retrieve it from within Jane. Frigga, after being called a witch by Malekith, is killed protecting Jane. What's he say, Colton?
Witch!
That's it. Thor reluctantly enlists the help of Loki, who knows a secret portal to Svartalfheim, where they will use Jane to lure and confront Malekith away from Asgard. In return, Thor promises Loki vengeance on Malekith for killing their mother. With Volstagg and Sif stalling Asgardian soldiers and Fandral assisting their escape, Thor, Loki, and Jane head to Svartalfheim. There, Loki tricks Malekith into drawing the Aether out of Jane, but Thor's attempt to destroy the exposed substance fails, and Malekith merges with the Aether and leaves in his ship as Loki is fatally wounded while killing Algrim. With Darcy and Jane's mentor, Dr. Eric Selvig, who was briefly institutionalized due to mental trauma he suffered during Loki's attack on Earth in the Avengers, they learn that Malekith plans to restore the Dark Elves to dominance by unleashing the Ether at the center of the Convergence in Greenwich. Thor battles Malekith through various portals and across multiple worlds until one portal separates them, leaving Malekith unopposed on Earth. Thor returns in time to help his comrades use their scientific equipment to transport Malekith back to Svartalfheim, where he is crushed by his own ship. Thor returns to Asgard, where he declines Odin's offer to take the throne and tells Odin of Loki's sacrifice. As he leaves, Odin's form transforms into Loki, who is actually still alive and impersonating Odin. Boom, boom, boom. End of movie.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, I realize in my story I may have mispronounced several names. And you may have fallen asleep. I tried to make it exciting by using reading voices.
I was enthralled the whole time. I mean, the ever changing pronunciation of Svartalfheim was pretty and great, I thought. But
so, what'd you guys think about this one?
It's just very generic movie. Thor's Thor, and he loves Jane Foster after having a weekend getaway with her in the first
2 years
movie.
ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. You know, and they have this evil dark elf who wants to encompass the universe of darkness because he doesn't like light, and
because reasons.
Darkness is cool. And
they're dark elves. They are from the darkness, man.
Yeah, but like, I don't know, man. You can have a little light. Like, it's fine. Like, he doesn't want to rule Asgard. Yeah, I don't. It's a very good guy versus bad guy. Good guy wins movie.
Yeah. What'd you think about it, Colton?
I think generic is the word to use. Like, this is just boilerplate, run-of-the-mill storyline progression for characters. I mean, there's just not much here to really kind of take away from it. I mean, at least with Iron Man 3, at least had a personal journey for Stark to go through. Thor doesn't really have an arc of any sort in this movie, does he? I mean, he's kind of just Thor the whole time.
Yeah.
I guess, I'm looking at this and I'm like, he really, in terms of major plot movement, I just don't think there's a whole lot here. I mean, the biggest thing that obviously happens by the end is Loki being on the throne. But even that, that gets cast aside very quickly in its own Thor sequel. And it's not even touched upon until then. So it's kind of just like, okay, the one big thing that could have had pretty big ramifications on the universe is kind of just, as it turns out, to be nothing. Now, at the time, obviously, we didn't know that. But, with the benefit of hindsight, it's kind of just like, okay, there's just not a whole lot here. Natalie Portman is straight up phoning this shit in. There is a story to that. I think do you want to get into that now? I guess now that I mention it, I guess I should probably elaborate. So this movie was directed by Alan Taylor, who I think prior to this was known principally for his work on Game of Thrones. He went on to do Terminator Genesis, which is a terrible movie. But it was originally going to be directed by Patty Jenkins.
Wait, I did not know that.
She went on to do Wonder Woman, which is a great movie. Well, good movie. Two-thirds of a great movie. And for whatever reason, it was another behind-the-scenes creative differences kind of thing that happened with this movie too, much like it did with Iron Man 3, and it basically resulted in Patty Jenkins kind of leaving the project. And I think Natalie Portman was kind of one of the ones that was just like, I want her to do this project. I'm really on board with what she's going to do. And I think it's a case of when Patty Jenkins leaves the project, Natalie Portman's like, well, I'm contractually obligated to do this movie, but I don't have any sort of, I'm not invested into doing this movie anymore. And you can tell.
That makes a lot of sense. You can 100%
tell because it's pretty plain that she just does not care to be there in this movie. And, we know that Natalie Portman is capable of amazing performances, and this is not one of them. And I think it kind of brings the whole thing down because they make Jane Foster such a central part of this movie. She gets she absorbs the ether. So she gets the big MacGuffin kind of within her. She goes to Asgard. Like, there's stuff in here that could have been really cool. Someone from Midgard going to Asgard. Like, that's on paper a pretty cool kind of thing, but nothing's really done with that. And then by the end, they're still in love and they're weekend together. They clearly enjoyed that 2 years ago, and they're ready to rekindle that relationship. But it's just like, why do I care about these two?
Well, listen, okay, if you were Jane Foster and you had a god that the god of thunder was interested in you, I mean, would you blame her for, like, how do you move on after god of thunder?
She dumped him sometime between this and Ragnarok, so I don't even know if that's true.
You question everything.
So I just think that making that such a heavy focus of this was a misstep. I don't think that they needed to fridge her or anything to give Thor some sort of movement, but I just think that if they were going to make that such a central point of it, you would need Natalie Portman to be kind of she would need to give a shit, I think. And if you're going to properly invest in it and then turn around and then Ragnarok, you just dump the whole thing, and it's just like, well, this whole thing feels like it was for nothing. Like, there's so much focus given to this that isn't great at the time, but now it's just like, why, and that's not the only problem with this movie. And I will maintain that I don't think any of the Marvel movies are bad. I think this one is just very generic, very straightforward, but I do think it has what I would say is probably the worst villain we've seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, period.
Quite possibly.
He's pretty shit. Yeah.
Malekith, and then, that's not to naysay Christopher Eccleston, who I think is a talented actor, but he's given nothing to do here, other than say, which, there's, his character is so nothing, and like Henry was kind of alluding, his motivation is just, it's wanting to plunge the universe into darkness. It's hard to latch onto that as kind of a believable motivation for, it's not a personal, vendetta against Thor, the way that Loki had in the first movie, and I guess somewhat against Odin as well. Here it's just like, he's just an evil dude because he's evil, and that's just not overly compelling to watch. I mean, it's certainly easy to root for Thor, there's really no conflict there, but it's just kind of nothing. And, he's got somewhat of an interesting design. The Dark Elves seems like a cool thing to do. You go to a new world. We've ventured outside of Midgard, Asgard, and Jotunheim. Now we go to Svartalfheim, and, well, it's just kind of looks like a dirt lot. It's like, well, I don't know. I think that the performances here, I think, Natalie Portman withstanding, I think make it work to I think Tom Hiddleston is great here. He's obviously having a good time. The brief Chris Evans Captain America cameo is great. the Warriors 3 get a little bit more to do here. Maybe not necessarily more, but they're fun. They're fun presences here. I even thought like Curse as kind of a second tier bruiser kind of villain was kind of a neat physical threat for Thor to deal with. Certainly seemed like more of a physical threat than Malekith was. I mean, Malekith basically got beat by Frigga. Let's not forget that. She definitely beat Malekith and probably could have killed them there if Curse did not intervene in that very moment. So, I mean, maybe that just means Frigga is just a super badass, but I don't know. It's kind of just like, well, if your own villain's kind of getting beat by the mother of the titular character, I don't know how compelling he's really supposed to be. So I don't know. I mean, I again, with the kind of the first movie, I have the same issue of the Midgard stuff isn't great. I think the stuff with Selvig kind of running around naked is kind of just okay.
And that's going to lead me to my biggest problems of the movie is the way it was stitched together. That's the biggest problem I have with the movie. No, don't get me wrong. It's all generic and stuff. But as far as like movie critiques and just like, for example, in the beginning of the movie begins with that the story of Bor versus the Dark Elves, right?
Right.
And then 20 minutes later in the movie, Odin recounts it for the characters. For Thor or whoever with the storybook. If you're going to put it in the middle of the movie, you don't need to put it at the beginning of the movie. And then same thing with the scientists running around naked at Stonehenge. It popped up on the TV at some point in the beginning of the movie, and then they talk about it and they show it again later on in the movie. You know, you don't need to recount those things. You know what I mean? I think I don't know. I didn't enjoy the flow of the entire movie, and those two things are the most egregious things that I remember. But yeah, I don't know. It was a movie, and that's all it was. It was just a movie.
That's a good.
It was.
Yep.
It's just a movie, but didn't do anything for me.
I agree. I agree with you there. Like I said, I just kind of tack on to what I was saying. I think something like Darcy having her own assistant, there's just attempts at humor here that I'm kind of just like, I don't think this is necessary. The Chris O'Dowd, being there for a bit part with, as a date for Jane. It's not funny. It's just kind of like, this just is lame. A lot of this is just kind of lame.
It's lame.
So that's kind of where I stand with a lot of it. I mean, some of it's good, How's space? Space is fine. That's a good joke. I like that joke.
Yeah, let's go on.
But on the whole, this does not move me. Post credits, I think, is probably a pretty big thing to talk about. We see Volstagg and Lady Sif deliver the ether to the Collector, portrayed by Benicio del Toro. And with their dialogue, it is revealed that the ether is one of the 6 Infinity Stones, and it is also our first confirmation that the Tesseract, the big old MacGuffin throughout Phase 1 that we saw in Captain America and the Avengers, is also an Infinity Stone. So, in terms of kind of, Phase 3 implications and certainly Infinity War implications, that's a pretty big deal to kind of have that knowledge kind of revealed unto us. And then the very last thing we see is Thor and Jane reunite, which again,
don't care.
As a way of ending your movie, it's like, well, that lands with a big old thud, doesn't it? So, I think we can probably safely skip over the second one, but the first one I think is a pretty fun tag for this movie. Like I said, a lot of implications kind of for the future. Anything on that? You guys good for favorite moments?
Yeah, I think that first post-credit scene kind of makes the movie if you take away the ether being an Infinity Stone, you can pretty much ignore this movie.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
But with it being, one of the 6 Infinity Stones, you kind of have to at least acknowledge the movie. That's my take.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong. It certainly, places the ether in the Collector's collection, certainly by the end of this movie, and presumably by the time Thanos goes on his little Thanos quest to collect all the Infinity Stones that we'll, hopefully be seeing in just over a month in Avengers Infinity War. So, yeah, no, I mean, I think that's definitely a very valid takeaway. So, favorite moments. Who wants to start here?
I'll start.
All right, have at it.
The most notable scene for me is when Heimdall's a badass.
It's true. We didn't mention Heimdall at all. Idris Elba delivering characteristic good Idris Elba work.
Yes, it's good stuff. He sees the ship, entering Asgard. Dude just sets off running up the Bifrost. Just starts running, and then he jumps on the ship with these 2 daggers and slides down. It was fucking cool. That was cool, and that's my favorite scene.
Yeah, that's pretty badass, actually. I kind of forgot that.
So that's all I got.
Henry, what do you have?
Mine are to single out character Loki, and I think specifically the scene where him and Thor go to how do you say it, Andrew?
Svartalheim?
Yeah. And Thor and Loki come up with their plan, and Loki pretends to betray Thor, and because Tom Hiddleston is such a great Loki, you totally believe it, and you're like, damn, Loki betrayed him again. And nope, it was all part of their plan, but he just stole the scene once again. So I gotta give it to Tom Hiddleston for that one.
Yeah. That's a good one. Although I have a hard time watching this movie and not thinking about the events that happen in Ragnarok are a literal depiction of the events that happen in this. So I watched some of the moments in this movie, and I'm like,
I'm sorry,
fuck, man. I see it happening in Ragnarok.
It just
obviously,
ruins it.
We're getting ahead of ourselves, but it kind of seems like even Ragnarok's taking the piss a bit with it. So, my favorite moment, and it's actually, I say all that, but I think it's actually a moment that they at least use the music for in Ragnarok. The Frigga's funeral, that whole sequence where.
Oh yeah, that was really good.
Like,
I like that.
That's the only moment in this movie that I thought was legitimately emotionally affecting. It's interesting because it's not a character that we're not really all that I guess emotionally attached to. I wouldn't say, but just the actual sequence, just the visualization of her kind of being in the boat, and then it kind of floating a bit, and then you see kind of her energy going to the stars. Like it was a really, really sweet moment. That
did her energy become stars? Did they create stars?
I don't know what the implication is here.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, she kind of died in battle against Malekith and Curse, so I would say she should go to Valhalla, personally. But,
yeah, right.
Thor 4 Valhalla?
Thor 4 Valhalla. Yeah. Say, Henry, we got to fill you in on this.
Ooh.
Henry and I have created the title for the Thor 4 movie that we want. It is Thor, the number 4, Valhalla.
Because the other two didn't have name or numbers in them. Oh god!
It's about Thor's quest going to Valhalla to rescue his friends that have fallen, that have been slain in combat. So he's got to rescue the Warriors 3. Maybe we can have like Lady Sif is probably still alive, so we can have her come around, and they can head off to Valhalla together and rescue everyone.
Throw Beta Ray Bill in there just because.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude!
Bring Taika Waititi back. So
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Thor 4 Valhalla. How could you not want that? All right. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Released April 4th, 2014. Written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, the writers of the first Captain America, technically also The Dark World, but we don't like to remember that. Directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, collectively known as the Russo brothers, starring Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, Kobe Smulders, Robert Redford, and Samuel L. Jackson. Henry, it is your turn. Please enlighten us.
All right. Try not to put you to sleep. But Captain America: The Winter Soldier happens after the Chitauri invasion of New York by none other than Loki, where now Cap tries to adapt to his new modern world. And so we open up with him running laps around the National Mall in his new home of Washington, D.C., and we get a great scene of him meeting Sam Wilson, an ex-Marine, and just lapping him on his left. So Cap is a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. now, and him and Black Widow storm the Lemurian Star, not S.H.I.E.L.D. ship, but a ship based on the orders of Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. And we see Cap be a complete badass atop of the Lemurian Star, taking out 10 or so of the agents in stealth mode. And we see Black Widow be very sneaky on her own separate mission, which Cap confronts her about. Cap is distraught, and he now confronts Nick Fury, who decides to explain to him Project Insight, which is 3 helicarriers, the same ship from the Avengers movie, that he is going to use to prevent future attacks from happening as a result of the Battle of New York. And here's where we see Cap's old ideals juxtaposed with this new direction that Nick Fury and the rest of S.H.I.E.L.D. are going in. And, Fury also becomes suspicious of events around S.H.I.E.L.D. And just as his suspicions rise, he's killed off by a mysterious assassin, later called the Winter Soldier. And now, having in his last dying breaths, giving Steve Rogers or Captain America a thumb drive and a last warning of not to trust anyone, he must now, take on this last mission by Nick Fury. So he begins to hunt. He is now being hunted by S.H.I.E.L.D., led by Alexander Pierce, played by none other than Robert Redford. And he has to join forces with Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, again, where they run away and use the thumb drive to discover that Hydra has actually secretly infiltrated and influenced S.H.I.E.L.D. for all the past years, where Cap thought he had defeated Hydra back in World War II. They actually hid and led a coup after the other and influenced politics on the world stage. So on the run, both Cap and Black Widow seek out help, and they find it in Sam Wilson from before, who recovers his old flight suit and becomes the Falcon. And as soon as they start making progress on their journey to topple S.H.I.E.L.D., the Winter Soldier shows up again, and they have a big all-out brawl on a highway. And as Cap and the Winter Soldier really get heated in battle, Cap flips the Winter Soldier over, only to have his face mask fall off, and he sees the face of none other than his best friend, Bucky Barnes, who he last saw in 1940. The last time we see Bucky was when Cap and Bucky and the Howling Commandos are storming Hydra bases, and Bucky falls off a train, and we never see him again. So Bucky escapes, and Cap and his team are captured by Hydra/S.H.I.E.L.D. So they eventually escape with the help of Maria Hill, who was a member of S.H.I.E.L.D., who we last saw in the Avengers movie. And together they team up to destroy Project Insight, these 3 helicarriers. So Cap and the Winter Soldier eventually fight again, but Cap now fights him to remember his own past. Cap's team eventually destroys the 3 helicarriers, but Cap will not continue to fight his best friend Bucky. He concedes and lets Bucky win the fight so that he will remember him. And in the end, Bucky does save Cap from drowning, but being very conflicted in his thoughts, he disappears. And now we're left with S.H.I.E.L.D. destroyed and being outed as Hydra by the Black Widow when she leaked all their information on the public web. And now Cap is on the hunt with his new friend, Sam Wilson, to find his old best friend, Bucky Barnes, who has been an assassin for all these years, kept in cryostasis, only to topple governments on the order of Hydra. And that's kind of where we end on the Captain America the Winter Soldier.
Getting chills over here, man.
It's a good movie.
This is where shit just gets really good.
Yeah.
I mean, purely in terms of the broader universe, in terms of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think that this movie is an unparalleled streak of incredible movies. Not all of them are, top tier amazing, but all of them are at least good. I think that it's really impressive what they've managed to accomplish. But speaking specifically about this one, there's a reason that this is the starting point where shit gets good, because this movie is fucking amazing.
Fire!
We could honestly spend about 2 hours just talking about this movie alone if we were left unrestrained. I'm going to try to keep us, relatively in line so we don't get bogged down too much with it, but I do want to emphasize how amazing this movie is. I saw this movie 7 times in theaters.
Holy shit.
7 times. To be fair, I didn't pay for most of those times. I worked at a theater for a lot of those showings, but I did pay for at least 1 or 2 of those, and it's a movie that I probably wouldn't have seen 7 times if I didn't have that sort of unfettered access, but at the same time, I would not have regretted paying to see it 7 times, and that to me is kind of encapsulating of how good this movie is, in my opinion. So I would say, just to kind of get my initial thoughts, on the record here, I think that the cast here is amazing, and I think that this is the best depiction of these characters that we've seen, not only to date, but I think really even beyond this movie. I think that this is still kind of the best depiction of a lot of these characters. I think that the Captain America here is so amazingly realized, and it feels like certainly from the first movie, I think the first movie did an amazing job of establishing his character, but this one, like Henry was talking about, just juxtaposing that 1940s World War II era Captain America and throwing him to a modern day setting. It's a different world. It's a very different world, and to kind of see someone like that kind of grapple with that, this movie does an amazing job of realizing that in a way that the Avengers didn't. The Avengers, by the very nature of it being kind of a team movie, didn't have too much time to dwell on that as much as I think that it could have. But this one really is focused on, recognizing where Captain America, where Steve Rogers is now, and him reconciling his place in the world. And I think it does an amazing job of that. But I think, moreover, this is the best iteration of Black Widow we've ever seen. Even through, like I said, even through the movie, every movie, all 18 movies that we've gotten to this point here in 2018. But Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson is amazing. I think that he is definitely one of the best additions to supporting characters that we've gotten in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I think that characters that we have seen, like Black Widow, like Maria Hill, like Nick Fury, I think that they get the most to chew on in this movie compared to anything else, which makes sense because it's a very shield-heavy, very shield-focused movie. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'd start with it, is with them. But
one of the best villains.
Yeah. I assume you're talking about the Winter Soldier anyway. I mean, there's a couple villains in here that I think are worth mentioning.
Yeah, no, I'm talking
about...
I'm talking about Redford. I thought he was...
I agree. Alexander Pierce, he's not the showiest villain, certainly, but he's one of the most credible real villains, I would say, that we've gotten in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, the whole template for this movie that, Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers has talked about is that they wanted to kind of emulate a 70s political thriller kind of feel to it. I wouldn't call it a political thriller movie, but I can certainly see the influences there.
They had
and,
threads, right?
And certainly having Robert Redford in it, you know, that's kind of a really tangible connection, certainly to kind of draw upon if you're trying to establish those kind of influences. So yeah, no, I'd agree. Well, you know, do you want to? It sounds like you have some things to say about Pierce. So don't let me hog the microphone.
No. He was. I don't. You know, I like the fact that he wasn't a showy villain. You know, where Winter Soldier is very much a tool used by Hydra. You know, the Redford plays the guiding hand, if you will. You know, and I think in that sense he's a much more. He was a much bigger threat. And his integration and his control over S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything else, and it's just his influence, it makes Hydra as a whole so much more compelling, you know, and I don't know. I like that whole aspect of it. The choreography in this movie is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous.
Amen, brother. Amen.
It was fucking so good. Another thing is the audio design. There's just a lot of technical aspects for this movie that were incredibly well done. And that's where it kind of you know, there's certain Marvel movies, if you will, that almost like Black Panther, they almost transcend the genre a little bit, you know. Now don't get me wrong, it's very much a superhero movie and this, that, and the other, but with the villain being a political villain, he's not out kicking ass or anything else, you know, and with just with the amount of effort and the pedigree of the filmmaking, it feels like so much more than a superhero movie. You know what I mean? It's just a really well made movie. And like you say, with Captain America being a fleshed out character in it, it very much feels like someone struggling to adhere to the environment that he's been thrown in, you know, and not trying to waver from his character, you know, if that makes sense. I'm several rum drinks in, so I don't know if I'm talking credibly or not, but he's stapled in who he is, and he doesn't beat off that path, you know, and it makes his character so much more compelling. So it's a really fucking good movie, man.
Yeah.
Really well made movie. It's cool. It's got some badass action scenes in it, well shot fight sequences. Whole movie's just really well shot. Characters are well realized. I think you have one of the most compelling villains in the entire cinematic universe in this movie. And there's just a lot of moving wheels and everything else, and it gives you a lot to chew on. So yeah, that's what I think about this one. I really like it.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you just said. I mean, Chris Evans is so inspiring as Captain America in this. And they made the Falcon cool. Like, I give the Russo brothers a lot of credit for this, because the Falcon, in my opinion, is not the coolest of characters. Like, he's a dude who flies around in a wingsuit and like talks to birds. And that's who he is in the comics. And they made him a really cool character. A lot of credit to Anthony Mackie for just giving him like his like cool aura to it, and not trying to hog the spotlight, but just being a great addition to the team. Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow was great, and I love the chemistry that she has with Chris Evans in this, because it's flirtatious in ways, but it's not. They don't turn her into a romance. Like, this is very much, I viewed it as like a respectful relationship between the two of them, where
yeah, they're playful.
You could have turned this into a romance, and I guess it would have been fine, but like, it just seems so much more rewarding in the way that they did it here, where they both care for each other, but not in that romantic way. Like, they're both in this together for different reasons. And like you said, great antagonists in Alexander Pierce. The Winter Soldier is such a personal villain to Steve Rogers. It's literally his best friend. trying to kill him, but he doesn't remember who he is, who Steve Rogers is, or who he is himself. And you just get the perfect mix of the drama with the action and the humor for a superhero movie. The humor doesn't impinge on the serious moments when they happen, but it's still a lot of fun. So it's a great mix there, and it's still grounded, even after a post-Avengers world where that aliens can come down at any second, or Thor can come and like zap you with lightning. This is still a very grounded movie, like mostly a lot of fist fights and gunfights, and to be able to do that after an Avengers world is pretty great.
Yeah, I would certainly make it a point to, really shout out the action in this movie. I know Andrew, rather, you talked about the choreography, and Henry, I know you were just kind of talking about, the tangible nature of it, the hand-to-hand combat and all that. This has, I would argue, the best action in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, in terms of just, the choreography and how it's filmed and everything, but really just in terms of the impact of it. Pretty much more or less from the get-go, that whole Lemurian star sequence of Cap just fucking absolutely wrecking dudes on deck. That whole chase sequence with Nick Fury, eluding the Hydra agents,
yeah, dude. When
impersonating the police.
Boom, boom, boom. They're bashing the window in the car.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was cool.
Captain America fighting fucking 12 dudes in an elevator.
Yes.
Come on. And that highway sequence, of course, too. We get a little bit of vehicle aspect of that. But even just when it's, the moment where Black Widow is running away for her life, like, she looks like she's very much afraid that she's going to die then and there, because the Winter Soldier is such a terrifying presence there. But then that hand-to-hand fight that, the Winter Soldier and Cap have, in that moment, you see Winter Soldier, tossing around that knife like a crazy asshole. That whole thing is just so brutal. You get that brief moment of, the Winter Soldier holding the shield, perhaps a little nod to the future, who's to say. It's all so good. It's all so fucking good. And then even just the helicarrier stuff at the end, Winter Soldier kicking that dude into the fucking Quinjet, and dudes just explode. Like, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the one-on-one fight that, even Cap and Winter Soldier have. I mean, even when Cap kind of throws his shield down into the river and says, I'm not going to fight you, Bucky just beats the shit out of him, and it's brutal. It is fucking brutal, and it's just, it's hard hitting. Not only physically speaking, but emotionally speaking as well, because there's just so much connection to all these characters. They all feel so good. Even, like the new characters, like someone like Sam Wilson. Like, I'm invested in Sam Wilson by the end of this movie. And, like Henry was saying, like, it's fucking Falcon, man. Like, you're making me invested in fucking Falcon? Like, come on. Like, that's not even fair. Again, I could go on and on about this thing, but it's just so good. I think the character moments for Captain America are just really, really impressive. The scene of him meeting Peggy, very old Peggy.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
I cry every time I see that scene. Like, not like ball out, but like I shed a tear.
He's over there weeping.
Every single time I see that scene. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Just every little beat in this, Steve giving that speech to Shield at the very end, price of freedom is high. It always has been. It's a price I'm willing to pay. If I'm the only one, then so be it. But I'm willing to bet that I'm not. Like, fucking hell, man. It's a gut punch. It is for me. You can laugh at me all you want, Andrew, but it fucking gets me, man. It fucking gets me. All right. And I love this movie. I unabashedly love this movie. I think that it's got snappy dialogue. It's got, really amazing actions. I think it's got credible, menacing villains. And I think that, let's take this a step back for a minute. Batroc the Leaper is a fucking credible villain in this movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Like what? like gets a cool fucking moment. And Brock Rumlow, Frank Grillo gets a good little bit to work with here, and obviously we'll kind of pick up on that, in another Captain America movie. But I don't think that there's a wasted moment in this movie, if we're being honest.
No.
It doesn't. I don't think there's fluff here. I think that it's all good. It's all great, and it's yeah, man. I don't know. Henry Jackman's score. I haven't talked about that at all. But even just like the very mechanical cues for like when the Winter Soldier comes out, like it feels threatening. Like just hearing that just kind of heightens the whole thing. So
he's a scary guy. Winter Soldier.
Yeah, that's so. I
tell you who's fucking scary is Captain America. Captain America's a fucking scary dude.
What?
Okay, that motherfucker doesn't play. Okay, that dude is scary as shit. Now, don't get me wrong. Winter Soldier's got a metal arm and he catches Captain's shield. He's got like a mask thing going on there for a little bit. He's a bad dude too. Okay, but Captain America don't fuck around. Does anybody else want to get out of this elevator before I kick all y'all's asses and jump 40 stories out on my shield? Yeah. No? How about when I hop on my motorcycle and I just ride straight into a fucking helicopter thing and throw my shield into its propeller and then fly off my motorcycle? It's just that he doesn't play, dude. He's and you can talk about any scene, any action scene, I should say. You can talk about any action scene in this movie and you can remember it. In every single action scene in this movie, it packs like you said, it packs a punch. You know what I mean? It's memorable. It's choreographed well. It's shot well. The score, you brought the score up, and that's something that I until you said something, I didn't think about it. But it's just, it's so good. Such a rich movie. Yeah, man, such a rich movie. And like I said, from here on out, the Marvel films really seem to step up in a big way. I don't know if they took a big chance with this film and the people that made it as far as Marvel Studios goes or not. And then with this film, it paid off in such a big way. From here on out, they kind of, take a hands-off approach. I don't know. But something changed with this movie, as far as the MCU goes. And,
well, I think it's twofold. I think that behind the scenes, you're hiring the Russo brothers, who to this point are really only famous for, well, they're not really famous at all, to be fair, but they're really only known for directing TV stuff. They did a lot of work on, Community, but before that, they did a lot of work on Arrested Development. So you're looking at two guys that don't really have, exactly a stellar pedigree as far as directing something of this nature, a big budget superhero movie. I mean, that's a pretty big jump up from TV work, principally comedy focused TV work. So I think you're looking at a risk there. But I think even within the movie, I mean, they were dedicated to blowing up the status quo. I mean, S.H.I.E.L.D. being revealed as Hydra, that's a pretty big fucking deal. S.H.I.E.L.D. was kind of the backbone for creating the Avengers, and to say that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been corrupted for so many years and the only way through is to blow the whole thing up, like that's ballsy. For something like this that, yes, it works as a self-contained movie, but for something as working as part of a, bigger template, like that's a pretty big fucking deal. And yeah, I just to kind of bring it all together, I mean, I think that they did take some risks with this movie, I think, in those two ways. And I think that the payoff here kind of sets the stage for, let's just say, fuck it and go for it from here on out. Like, why do we need to play it safe? We don't need to play it safe. Like, we're Marvel Studios. We'll make any movie, and any movie that we make will make money. And 18 movies on, are they wrong?
It's true. They've made a shit ton of money.
So yeah, that's kind of, at least, how I would kind of react to what you're saying there.
Right.
So, any last thoughts before we get into the post credits sequences?
No, I mean, I think we pretty much covered it.
Okay.
Full on, yeah.
So post credits wise, our mid credit sequence is our first introduction to Baron von Strucker. who reveals that they've been working on some experiments at Hydra. They've created a miracle in the form of the Maximoff twins, Wanda and Pietro Maximoff. This is the age of miracles, Doctor, and there's nothing more horrifying than a miracle. I think this is one of my favorite post-credit sequences we've ever got. It's one of the longer ones, to be fair, too. There's a lot more to it than just that. A lot of it's kind of, setting the stage for, okay, what's going on here? Who's this guy? Who are these twins that they're talking about? When we see very brief snippet of, Quicksilver running around fast in his little cage and Wanda kind of playing with her hexes. But I think that it's such a cool, it feels tonally in line with the Winter Soldier, but still in a way that builds outward to, okay, there's two fucking, what's going on here? What's Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch? Those are some pretty interesting characters to play with, not only because of the whole rights issue that goes on behind the scenes with them, but just I think as characters alone, I think they're really cool kind of characters to kind of take it, forward with. So I really like this sequence. I don't know if you guys agree with it, but this is one for me that I always enjoy watching.
No, I agree. I enjoy it.
I like anytime Marvel, and they obviously do it in a big way with the next one, but I like when they expand the expand. You got that you have Homegirl there playing with the hexes and stuff. You know what I mean? It's something new that they haven't touched on. You know what I mean? And it's exciting to when you're waiting for the next movie to come out, or you're waiting for this, that, or the other. It's nice to have that little tidbit there. That what the fuck is she gonna do? Or how are they gonna do this or that? And it's I don't know. It leaves a lot left for you to think about, and I think that's what's cool about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then lastly, we see Bucky Barnes taking a little visit to the Smithsonian exhibit, doing a little research on himself, which, it's a very brief scene, but it's certainly interesting and has some far-reaching kind of implications as far as where Bucky, his character would go. And obviously, we've had the benefit of seeing him since then and kind of knowing where that goes, but certainly at the time, that's a pretty big deal of, okay, all right, what's the next chapter for Bucky Barnes? It's an interesting question, certainly, I said at the time. So I think these two post-credit sequences together, I think, really knocked it out of the park. So it makes sense. I mean, good post-credit sequences to go with a really good movie. So you guys ready for some favorite moments?
Yeah.
All right. Let's shake it up. I will start. Ha!
Go, man.
Do it. The thunder. My favorite sequence, or my favorite moment, I guess, is Captain America just absolutely laying waste to motherfuckers on the Lemurian Star.
God yeah.
God
it's it's kind of the first thing we see in the movie, action wise, for Captain America, and it feels like a strong refocusing of Captain America because he's kind of functionally useless in the Avengers. Doesn't really do anything in it. I mean, he kind of stands toe to toe with Loki for a minute there, but he struggles with a guy that's shooting at him, and it seems to run on some form of electricity. It's like, oh, I get it, he's not smart, but he doesn't do shit in that movie for the most part. I mean, he does a little bit, I guess, maybe in the end there, kind of commanding, the police officers, but we don't see an unrestrained Captain America just fucking wrecking people, and this is the first time we see that here. And the way that the whole thing is sequenced is amazing. We get that, Henry Jackman score to kind of, bring the kind of feel of it, the tone of it, into place. And we just see him just being fucking awesome. To me, then I'm like, this is what I've dreamed about. This is it. This is what I needed. So that's mine. Andrew, I think that's probably yours too, from the sounds of it.
Yeah, man. I was talking about defining moments. You pop in the Blu-ray, or you go into the theaters. I can't remember the feeling I had when I first watched it in theaters, but I know before I watched it again, I hadn't seen it in a long time, and you pop in the Blu-ray, and then you watch that scene. Jumps out of the plane. He drops out of the thing with no parachute. Yeah, he never carries a chute. Who the fuck jumps out of a plane without a chute? Captain America, man. He's just a cool dude. And then you have you got everybody walking up and everything's silent. And they're walking around and all you hear is Cap's punches or a shield bouncing off of people's heads. And man, this whole intro sequence is so satisfying in a big way. And it really gives you a sense of depth for how badass Shield is and how badass Captain America and they're just so incredibly awesome. And technically it's shot well, it's choreographed well, you got the score in the beginning, you got the sound design. It's just a culmination of things from the get-go. So for that reason right there, that is probably, there's a lot of good things in this movie, don't get me wrong, but nothing sets pace like your intro sequence. You know what I mean? And this intro sequence right here is very, very, very strong. Yeah, I don't know. It's an awesome sequence, and it's definitely my favorite moment in the movie.
I agree with all that you just said, and I was debating between this scene and another one, so I'll pick the other one. But yeah, this kind of sets up the rest of the movie. Like, this is when the first time I watched it, I was like, this is what I wanted. This is what I've been waiting for, and we get it. And to me, that's pretty much a perfect Captain America scene. And then we get another scene that's perfect in my opinion when he's having that highway fight with the Winter Soldier and his Goonies lackeys. And eventually, Natasha, the Black Widow, gets a crack at him. But in the end, it comes down to Steve versus Bucky without them knowing who the other one is. So there's no holding back at all. You just see, the choreography that you talked about is incredible in this. And it's not a very long fight, but it's such a great fight. Oh man, every time I watch that, I get chills. And even though I knew, and I'm sure both of you knew, that it was Bucky under the mask, to see Steve's reaction to it is pretty incredible. So that is my favorite scene in this movie, with a lot of scenes that could have been chosen, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's a good one too. There's a lot of good ones in this one. I don't think you can really go wrong with any of them.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's get into it. Released August 1st, 2014. Written by James Gunn and Nicole Perlman. Directed by James Gunn, starring Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, and Lee Pace. Andrew, yeah, we're going to let you take the reins on this one again, against our better judgment, but we're going to let you do it.
You gave me all the ones with the fucked up alien names, all of them.
Wasn't intentional, I promise.
All right. Following his mother's death, a young Peter Quill is abducted from Earth by the Ravagers, a group of space pirates led by Yondu Udonta. Yondu Udonta. 26 years later, on the planet Morag, Quill steals an orb, but is attacked by Korath, a subordinate to the fanatical Kree Ronin. Although
what?
Although Quill escapes with the orb, Yondu discovers his theft and issues a bounty for his capture, while Ronan sends the assassin Gamora after the orb. When Quill attempts to sell the orb on Xandar, capital of the Nova Empire, Gamora ambushes him and steals it. A fight ensues, drawing in a pair of bounty hunters, the genetically and cybernetically modified Raccoon Rocket and the tree-like humanoid Groot. Nova Corps.
Core.
Yeah, I can read. Nova Corps officers capture the four, detaining them in the Kylan. A powerful inmate there, Drax, attempts to kill Gamora due to her association with Ronan, who killed his family. Quill convinces Drax that Gamora can bring Ronan to him, though Gamora reveals that she has betrayed Ronan, unwilling to let him use the orb's power. Learning that Gamora has a buyer for the orb, Quill, Rocket, Groot, and Drax work with her to escape the Kylan? How do you pronounce that? Kiln?
Yeah.
In Quill's ship, the Milano. Quill's group flees to nowhere, a remote criminal outpost in space built in the severed head of a celestial. A drunken Drax summons Ronan while the rest of the group meet Gamora's contact, the Collector, Tanelier Tavan. Tavan opens the orb, revealing an Infinity Stone, an item of immeasurable power that destroys all but the most powerful beings who wield it. Ronan arrives and easily defeats Drax, while the others flee by ship pursued by Ronan's followers and Gamora's adoptive sister, Nebula. Nebula destroys Gamora's ship, leaving her floating in space, and Ronan's fighters capture the orb. Quill contacts Yondu before following Gamora into space, giving her his helmet to survive. Yondu arrives and retrieves the pair. On Ronan's flagship, the Dark Aster, Ronan embeds the stone in his warhammer, taking the power for himself. He contacts Thanos, threatening to kill him after first destroying Xandar. Hateful of her adopted father, Nebula allies with Ronan. The Ravagers and Quill's group join the Nova Corps to confront the Dark Aster at Xandar. With Quill's group breaching the Dark Aster in the Milano, Ronan uses his empowered Warhammer to destroy the Nova Corps fleet. Gamora fights and defeats Nebula, who then escapes, but the group finds themselves outmatched by Ronan's power until Rocket crashes a Ravager ship through the Dark Aster. The damaged Dark Aster crash lands on Xandar, with Groot sacrificing himself to shield the group. Ronan emerges from the wreck and prepares to destroy Xandar, but Quill distracts him with a dance-off, allowing Drax and Rocket to destroy Ronan's Warhammer. Quill quickly grabs the freed stone, and with Gamora, Drax, and Rocket sharing its burden, they use it to destroy Ronan. In the aftermath, Quill tricks Yondu into taking a container supposedly containing the stone. It's really contained what's it contain? One of those little trolls with the big hairs. And
it's a troll doll, yeah.
Yes, troll doll. So he gives, where was I at? Contain, I got sidetracked. And he gives the real stone to the Nova Corps. As the Ravagers leave Xandar, Yondu remarks that it turned out well that they did not deliver Quill to his father per their contract when he was a little kid. Quill's group, now known as the Guardians of the Galaxy, have their criminal records expunged, and Quill learns that he is only half human, and his father being part of an ancient unknown species. Quill finally opens the last present he received from his mother, a cassette tape filled with her favorite songs. The Guardians leave Xandar in a rebuilt Milano, along with a sapling cut from Groot. And that's Guardians of the Galaxy, guys.
That was quite the adventure you just took us on.
Let me tell you something. Guardians of the Galaxy is a fucking adventure. It is a awesome movie. Awesome movie. I totally love this movie.
It's awesome.
Yes, it does have a shortcoming, but aside from its one shortcoming, it is a totally fucking awesome movie, and I totally love it. How do you feel about this movie, Henry?
I agree. I fucking love this movie. And when I first saw the movie, I will say that I liked the movie. I didn't love it. And this is probably the first of the Marvel movies that I went into really being attached to the source material. You know, I had read some Iron Man arcs. I had read some, a few Cap things, like, you know, some Avengers, a lot of Spider-Man, which hasn't joined the MCU as of this movie, but I was into Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, Colton and I have talked about Annihilation, the story arc, many times. So I was very invested in his characters, and they were a little bit different. And I think this is where you're hinting at the shortcoming. Ronan was not how I like him to be.
Oh, he wasn't really much of anything, was he?
Exactly. Like,
yeah.
And it wasn't a issue with Lee Pace, I don't think. You know, it's just so just a very quick background. Ronan's kind of, I would classify him as an anti-hero in the comics.
Yeah, definitely.
he's been the villain of some issues, but he's definitely been on the side of the quote good guys. So he's a very complex character who really he's tied down to his belief in the laws and justice, and his name is Ronan the Accuser, which they allude to a little bit in this movie. He has to serve justice, but this movie he just hates Xandar, because they've been at war with the Kree. So just to get that out of the way, my one shortcoming is the villain, but the Guardians themselves are all incredible. From the performances by Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, who would have thought that, a guy with very little acting experience who was previously a wrestler would have this kind of comedy chops. Vin Diesel only saying one sentence in I Am Groot.
Exclusively in that order.
Yeah.
I am Groot.
And Bradley Cooper being a talking raccoon who doesn't like to be referred to as a raccoon. Man, what a weird plot to this movie. If you don't know anything about these characters, you're like, how is this related to Iron Man? There's a talking tree who can't really speak, and they're out in space, and I guess Star-Lord's from Earth, but he never goes back. But they make it work, and a lot of credit to James Gunn for being such a quirky guy and quirky director and writer to make such a fun. I think this is the most fun MCU movie. Not the best, but the most fun. There's.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I get excited.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, if you don't enjoy this movie for the fun, then what's your deal? Do you not like fun?
Yeah, it's just so fucking good.
You not like to have fun? Are you dead inside?
I saw this movie. One day you will talk, Colton. One day you will talk. But I saw this movie while Colton was in boot camp. And I think it was the only letter I wrote to Colton while he was gone, but I wrote him a letter about this movie. Because I wasn't sure if he could see it or not. I don't know. He wasn't really allowed to talk or anything. So I sent him a fucking letter. It was a 2-page letter about the soundtrack, about just everything. And that week, actually, the week that it was released, I think Robin Williams had died as well, which was pretty shit. But on a side note, and this movie does a lot of really interesting things. With the Avengers, which was the first team-up movie in the MCU, you had for the most part a lot of investment in the characters involved in that team. One thing that was achieved and to such a high standard too, it's just, it's so good. Was you're incredibly invested in each one of the Guardians from the get-go, the entire movie. You know what I mean? Each one of them provides, they each have a real reason for doing what they're doing, and you're invested in those characters. From, like I said, you had not seen any of these characters in a previous film. So for them to make such an awesome team-up movie, and establish these each one of the Guardians in such a big way is huge. It's just executed to perfection. It's awesome. The soundtrack and the style of the film is so unlike any movie to date. When this was released, it had so much flair and so much character. You could probably akin this movie to maybe a Ragnarok, where it just feels so incredibly fresh. And it just blew me away, man. It blew me away. The humor is so organic, and it feels right. And like you said to the cast, that's a large shout out to the cast, because they did an awesome job. The world's realized, the characters are fleshed out. I don't know, man. It's an awesome movie. I really like this one a whole lot. That's what I got. Colton, what do you got?
Oh, I'm allowed to talk now?
Yeah, I give you permission. You may speak.
Well, actually, I'm a little bit surprised, Andrew. You stole my thunder a bit. I thought that I would have the most relevant backstory to this. I didn't think you'd actually mention the letter you sent me. So, yeah, just to kind of tack onto that, I think this is the only movie in the entire MCU that I did not see opening weekend. In fact, I didn't see it until about a month and a half after it came out.
Damn, that's right. I forgot that.
I was in boot camp, as Andrew mentioned. I was shut off from the outside world, and I had no way of seeing this until week 7. We had off-base liberty, and we basically had like maybe 12 hours or something to kind of go out and do our own thing.
So naturally, you saw the movie 4 times in those 12 hours.
Well, I didn't see it 4 times, but naturally, the first thing I did is one of my buddies and I, who I had met in boot camp, we both realized we had an affinity for Marvel. One of the first things we did when we got out was literally went to the theater there in Cape May, New Jersey, and we saw Guardians of the Galaxy. And let me tell you, for someone that has been basically shut out from technology and everything for 6.5 weeks, 7 weeks at that point, something like that. This movie blew my fucking mind. I think any movie probably would have blown my fucking mind in the same way that like the first time I got access to my cell phone, I was just baffled by the touch, the touch technology of it. Like I was just like, I don't remember how to use my phone.
You're shut off from the world.
Yeah. So it really honestly wasn't until the second time I saw this movie that I was able to really properly absorb it, because the first time I saw it and then I went back to boot camp for a week, and it was back to the grind. It was back to what we had been doing, shut off from the outside world. And I felt like I was in a fugue state almost thinking about this movie. It all felt like a dream, because I think part of it was just, it was such an outlandish, out there movie. But part of it was just like, this is such a crazy movie, and I don't know how to reconcile that with what I've been doing for the past 2 months. But I saw it the second time, and I was just like, oh my god, this is just a fucking awesome movie. Like, this is a fucking awesome movie, and I love it for all of the crazy things that it does. But I would like to, before I get a little bit more specific into how it resonates with me now that I'm several years removed from that, I'd like to submit for the record the letter that Andrew wrote me, if that's all right.
Oh, I have not heard this.
This is gonna be good.
So this is from Thomas and Son Incorporated, addressed to Seaman Recruit Brown, Colton D, Recruit Company Delta 190, United States Coast Guard Training Center, 1 Monroe Avenue, Cape May, New Jersey. Opening it now. He addressed me as a private. That's not a rank in the Coast Guard, but I'll allow it. If boot camp couldn't get any worse, I'm about to drop a fucking bomb on it. ... Robin Williams committed suicide. There you go. You were not wrong. There's a little bit of information here. Don't know shit about what's going on in sports. I know you're surprised. Ebola has broken out in Africa. Guardians of the Galaxy has an 11-day total of $181 million. I'm jumping around a little bit. He didn't write it quite that in that regard. But he was very kind. He has this whole letter to me, and in the very bottom right corner it says next page, Guardians of the Galaxy review. And this is dated August 12th, 2014. This is the day before my birthday, actually. You guys ready for this? Guardians of the Galaxy review?
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. It's, again, dated August 12th, 2014. Quote, on my planet, we have a legend about people like you. It's called Footloose. And in it, a great hero named Kevin Bacon teaches an entire city full of people with sticks up their butts that dancing, well, it's the greatest thing there is. Peter Quill. Very seldom a superhero movie finds a balance between what works on the pages of a comic book and what translates well to the silver screen, and this film does it. From the groovy soundtrack, to the one-liners, to the badass, in-your-face action, every aspect of this film is 100% what you would expect from a comic book movie, and it's done flawlessly. It's the Fantastic Four done right. Let me start by saying the original soundtrack is probably the best I've ever listened to. And I guess I'm not the only one to think so. It's currently battling for the number 1 on Billboard's Top 200. I'll excise this for time. It's an entire soundtrack list. Number 1, Hooked on a Feeling, Blued Swede, 2 minutes, 52 seconds. Number 2, Go All the Way, Raspberries, 3 minutes, 21 seconds, so on and so forth, through number 12, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell, 2 minutes, 29 seconds. Do you see those fucking songs? I really can't think of a movie with more of a lineup. That first song is so awesome, I found myself dancing in the house the next. After a few beers, of course. Cinematography is pretty good, nothing really noteworthy, although the CG is awesome. Tons of time went into the backdrops, detail and visual fidelity are outstanding. Rocket and Groot looked great. I think the best way to describe the movie is Fantastic Four done right. It's a fun movie that can be enjoyed by everyone. There's enough Easter eggs to satisfy the nerds, and there's enough comedy to keep the general audience, second page, engaged. Overall, the movie is very well done. So good, in fact, I'm going to spend the extra money and see it on IMAX. It will benefit from the audio and visual advantages of IMAX greatly. It's hard for me to describe any more at work and spoiler-free. Wow, you wrote this at work? Wow, what a good use of time. The point I need to convey is, all caps, this is one of my favorite Marvel movies. Back to regular casing. Second only to the Avengers. End letter. That's the end of the review. That's it. That's what I have for you. So Andrew,
that's incredible.
My question for you is, do you stand by what you wrote in that?
I would make
almost
one
4 years
change.
Ago? Oh yeah.
I stand by everything, but it being I like Guardians of the Galaxy more than I like Avengers.
Oh, do you now?
I do. It's grown with me. It might be one of those like nostalgia feels. I don't know, but I don't know. I like it more than I like the Avengers, man. It's a good fucking movie, and I enjoy watching it. I still think it's funny. I still groove to the soundtrack. I don't know. I think it's one of those movies that's gonna stick with me for a long time. It's just a lot of scratches that I've got. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Well, to add my own thoughts, since I've talked a lot, but I guess I don't know that I've said a whole lot about how I actually feel. I agree with everything that's really been said. I agree with you in that letter. Now that I've had myself the time to really be able to process it and watch it a billion times since it came out, it's just such a heartfelt movie. I feel the love that went into this movie. I feel the love for these characters, and for these characters that, I mean, they are just crazy, out there, ridiculous, especially Groot and Rocket. I mean, that's pretty crazy just to be able to create some sort of emotional attachment to a talking raccoon and a walking tree. It's pretty ridiculous in some ways. And, the interactions they all have together, Quill, Gamora, all of them have just really, really just amazing interactions. But it does have that one fatal flaw of Ronan the Accuser, who I know Henry said that it's not necessarily Lee Pace's fault, and I agree in the sense that I think that Lee Pace is a good actor, but I don't buy him as a Ronan. For someone that's supposed to be a zealot, who's supposed to be this radical terrorist, he's kind of a space Bin Laden is kind of the way that they have him depicted here, which we could have another conversation about how that's not what Ronan should be, and that's disappointing. But I don't really buy him as this kind of, I think he's got a decent enough presence. I think he's got a commanding voice and everything, and I like the visual design that they kind of achieved with Ronan. But I just think that if you're going to go for that iteration, that interpretation of the character, I think you need someone that's a little bit more threatening. But that's just kind of my personal take. And I know that I know James Gunn kind of ran into that issue because you have that whole sequence where we get our first introduction to Thanos, our first proper introduction to Thanos. Obviously, we see him very briefly in the Avengers. Stinger.
Oh, and what an introduction to him, man.
Yeah, but
holy shit.
And the thing was, James Gunn was like, he wanted to introduce Thanos, but he wanted to do it in a way because Thanos obviously is, he's the Mad Titan. He's what you're building to through 18 movies. How do you introduce Thanos in a way that doesn't completely undermine Ronan? So that first scene that we kind of see with him, he's like, okay, Ronan's gonna snap the neck of the other and make him kind of seem like a boss. But Thanos just kind of just calls him a bitch the whole time. You know?
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
You know, you're
boy.
You know.
Oh, I want to see Thanos. I really need to see him.
I'm ready for some Thanos.
Yeah, so
I will bathe the stowaways in your blood.
bathe the stowaways in your blood. Yeah.
Like, whoa, man, calm down, man. Like, I was just trying to destroy Xandar. Chill.
And I'll do it from this chair.
Yeah. Fucking floating rock throne.
So I think that, you know, I kind of see where Gunn struggled a bit with that. And obviously you have the moment later where Ronan says, you know, fuck you, Thanos. I'll destroy Xandar on my own. I don't need you, you know, to kind of, you know, recapture, you know, his menace, I guess, in some ways. But he just doesn't feel like a worthy villain in the scheme of things. I you know, I think he's a good few tiers above someone like Malekith is, but I just don't feel that there's a credible enough threat for him. I mean, obviously, by the end, obviously, it's a credible threat in the sense that the Power Stone touches Xandar, boom, you know, the whole planet goes up in smoke. It's as simple as that. But I just don't think that Ronan is handled with the love and care in the way that the Guardians of the Galaxy themselves are. You know, I feel that, and I don't feel that with Ronan. And I think that's kind of its big issue, and it sucks because I think that you address that one discrepancy, and you're possibly looking at the best movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. For me, it's not quite there. I think it's very close to it, but I don't think that it's quite there for me personally because I think it has a pretty big flaw.
It's an egregious error.
Yeah. You know.
Now, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, you know, in retrospect, you watch it, and being that we're in phase 3 now, I suppose, right?
Right.
The entire movie, I think more so than any other movie to date, has centered around what has been publicly acknowledged within screen time as an Infinity Stone. It almost makes me think that maybe the point of and like I said, it's still an egregious error. I'm trying to look. I'm trying. The glass is half full. Okay. Maybe the point of the film was not Ronan, but the stone. You know what I mean? And how incredibly powerful this stone is. Because like I said, other movies have made the stones present. But I mean, like I said, this one, and it did it well. I mean, it did it better than the Ether. But from the get-go, you recognize, you know that it's an Infinity Stone, and they show a little glimpse with the giants walking around on the planet, and they throw the thing in the ground and blows up the planet, and you're like, oh shit, that's a pretty powerful deal. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just a bad guy wielding the stone, and the bad guy's just lackluster. I don't know, but it's a pretty big. It is a pretty big error on the movie that they didn't give him.
No, I think that. There's an actual threat there. You know, I think that certainly in the form of the Power Stone, I think that there's something there. I just think that motivation-wise, it's kind of hard to get on board with Ronan as any sort of. I just think that between the motivations and between the performance, I don't love it. I don't love it. You know, it just kind of feels like, well, we need a bad guy. Let's make this guy evil. And I think that if they hemmed closer to the Ronan of the comics, if they wanted to use Ronan as their antagonist, I think they could have done that in a really effective manner instead of making him the Zionist. That, you know, make him, you know, just completely devoted to law and justice. And the Guardians of the Galaxy are criminals. I mean, it would have worked perfectly. They're all definitely worthy of being thrown into prison. I get that. The approach that they were going for, I just think that there's a way to make him more compelling. But as it stands, I mean, you know, we could talk for a lot of time about how they can fix that. I think that in the scheme of things, it's not something that overshadows the rest of the movie. In fact, I think it's quite the other way around, where everything else in the movie is so good that I'm willing to forgive that as a flaw and say that, you know, if I'm nitpicking, that's what I'll look at, that's what I'll point to. But in terms of the emotionality of it, soundtrack, I mean, all of it is just really, really affecting. It's really good. It's really good. So that's where I would stand.
Yeah, I think it speaks to how good the rest of the film is that you can have a pretty weak villain and the movie's still incredible. I mean, like, you look at the Avengers, they had other movies to set up these characters. Like, granted, they added a Hawkeye basically in this one, and Black Widow had a small role in Iron Man 2. But this one, like, you've never seen Star-Lord, or you've never seen Gamora, Drax, or Rocket, or Groot. And by the end of the movie, like, you understand each of the characters. You've seen their growth from Star-Lord. I mean, this movie really focuses on Star-Lord, even though a lot of the other characters get a lot of growth. But you see him from the very first scene of not being able to grab his mother's hand when she's dying, to being able to grab the rest of the team's hand to hold the Power Stone in place. And, like, that's a really big development for his character. And, you know, you see Groot sacrificing himself. You see Rocket, like, actually learning to work as a team. You see Drax stop focusing on just his single mission of destroying Ronan, and Gamora, you know, learning to trust someone for probably the first time ever. So and then you've both mentioned the soundtrack, you know, it's incredible. It's not just, and I didn't want to bring up, you know, another DC movie that seems like they try to be like Guardians of the Galaxy, but I kind of do want to bring it up because Guardians of the Galaxy is doing these elements right, and Suicide Squad is doing all of these same elements wrong, in that you're just throwing in songs because they're cool songs, whereas this movie, the songs are part of the plot. Like, he got this tape from his mother the last time he was on Earth, and he's never been back there. And then he opens up a new tape. And so, you know, there's a part in the plot where he goes back to the prison to literally get his tape player back. And Drax is like, "You're an imbecile." But to Star-Lord, like, that means a lot because that's the last thing that he has from his mom.
It's the only thing.
Exactly. So, you know, the music is, I don't know, it's not a character, but it's such a big part of the movie. And it's a great sound selection, you know.
He's flying through space, listening to his tape player. Drac looks through the window. What's he say? Do you remember what he says, Colton?
Behold.
yeah.
I mean, and like Dave Bautista's just timing with Drax is incredible. Like, oh
so
my
good.
God.
It's gold,
like,
man.
He cracks me up every time I see this movie.
Nothing gets over my head. My reflexes are too quick. I will catch it.
Man.
It's good shit.
Oh,
it's real
good.
good shit.
It's good.
Yeah, it is. I think I can speak for all of us collectively by giving it a 3-word review to finalize all of our thoughts. We are Groot. Post credits wise, we have little baby Groot dancing and the official Marvel Cinematic Universe debut of Howard the Duck.
With Cosmo thrown in there a little bit.
With Cosmo, you know, the cosmonaut in there, yeah. Which we see, it's technically we see both Cosmo and Howard within the movie proper and the collector's collection. Yeah, nothing. Again, nothing terribly noteworthy for setting the table for the future, but fun sequences. Obviously, I guess to be fair, we see Groot has survived in some capacity. I think James Gunn has recently confirmed that the Groot that we see there is actually technically the Groot of the movie here. It's his son, as what he said that is the case here. So. Doesn't, I guess, really carry the memories of the previous Groot that did sacrifice it, which in a way kind of makes the whole sacrifice not seem, you know, like I mean, because if it was the same Groot, we'd be like, okay, well, why wouldn't we just do that all the time? So yeah, good stuff there. Favorite moments. Who wants to begin here?
I got one for this.
All right.
The prison sequence when it's basically the first time they all meet. So, some of them had met before, but this is their first introduction to Drax. And these characters could have basically nothing in common, but they team up because they want to escape and they want to get to Ronan. And some of them want it for money, some of them want it for revenge, some of them want it to, I guess, revenge against Thanos. And you see them team up for the first time. You get a mix of some comedy. You get it like great action sequence, and it's a really fun sequence. Great visuals. Good soundtrack, not just a score, or I guess good score, not just the soundtrack. In this scene, I thought
This one here is our booty.
Yeah. A little cameo by Nathan Fillion, like what's not to like?
I like that's my favorite knife. that little fucking dude. He's funny.
He does the finger to the throat means death. You know what that means, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
It's good.
Andrew?
Favorite moment. Defining sequence for me is the entire intro sequence. You got little Peter Quill and his dying mom. First time I saw that, hit me in the feels really fucking hard. Really hard. Cried within 5 minutes. I was like, oh, fuck. And then instantly, boom, it picks you up and the dude's singing and he's kicking those little rats and having a good time, and he's funny, and it was just, this is gonna be a ridiculous movie. I'm so excited. That title card, it was all so good. So the beginning from and it's not, I guess, one thing, but the entire intro sequence is probably my most defining.
Hail, what's the matter with your head? Head. Hail. No.
Yeah,
no one wants to join in.
So good.
Oh, we're all supposed to sing along?
I don't know. I thought someone might sing along.
What's the matter with your bum bum ba dum bum bum?
Oh.
Come and get your love.
See, there we go. Now we're into it.
Yeah.
Love it. My favorite moment is the tail end of the movie where Peter Quill dives for the Power Stone after it gets knocked free from Ronan's hammer. And he grabs it, and, he's getting all fucked up, and then, background's going crazy. And then, Gamora's, take my hand. And then, we get the flashback to his mom saying the same thing. And I'm like, God damn it, man. All the feels come pouring in. And it's such a beautiful moment. And Tyler Bates' score in that moment, just hearing that kind of swell, like it all just comes together for me there. And, takes Gamora's hand, Drax, pops it, onto his shoulder, and then little Rocket with those little rocket hand comes up and grabs Drax. And I'm like, this is, it's good. That's the scene every time that gets me just super emotional just watching it. And it's impressive because 2 hours to make, you invest into a whole team. Like it's damn, it's good. So that's my moment. That's my favorite moment. But you're all not wrong. So ready to move on?
Avengers.
The Avengers: Age of Ultron. Released May 1st of 2015, written and directed again by Joss Whedon, starring much of the cast of the first Avengers: Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner, and joining this time, Don Cheadle, Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, I guess he was technically sort of in the first Avengers, James Spader as Ultron, and coming back again, Kobe Smulders and Samuel L. Jackson. So I will do my thing here and let everyone know what Avengers Age of Ultron is all about.
Yeah.
So the Avengers raid a Hydra facility commanded by Hydra's Baron von Strucker and encounter two of his test subjects, Wanda and Pietro Maximoff, before overwhelming Strucker's forces and recovering Loki's mind-controlling scepter. Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, Iron Man and the Hulk, discover an artificial intelligence housed within the scepter and work together to implement it into Stark's dormant Ultron global peacekeeping initiative. While enjoying revels together, the Avengers are suddenly attacked by a newly integrated Ultron, who believes he must eradicate humanity to save Earth. Ultron escapes with the scepter and constructs a robotic army, while also recruiting the Maximoffs as allies. The Avengers locate and intercept Ultron, who is making a deal to acquire the rare metal vibranium from arms dealer Ulysses Klaue. Wanda Maximoff, using her mind-altering capabilities, subdues the Avengers with haunting visions and unleashes a rampaging Hulk on the nearby city of Johannesburg. Defeated, the Avengers retreat to a farmhouse where Clint Barton's family secretly resides. Meanwhile, Ultron mind controls geneticist Helen Shaw and forces her to create a synthetic body using the purchased vibranium. Ultron breaks the housing of Loki's scepter and implants the internal gem, later discovered to be one of 6 Infinity Stones, into the head of the synthetic body. Upon discovering Ultron's plans for global destruction, the Maximoffs turn against Ultron. The Avengers arrive and retrieve this synthetic body, which is later activated as the Vision, when Stark and Banner secretly upload Stark's Jarvis AI into it. Ultron has constructed a machine to propel the capital city of the Eastern European nation Sokovia skyward and crash it into the ground to inflict mass casualties. Initially wary of the Vision's intentions, the remaining Avengers put their suspicions aside and team with the Maximoffs and the Vision to eradicate Ultron and prevent global catastrophe. The Avengers successfully defend the city from Ultron and his robotic army and are able to evacuate residents of the city onto a helicarrier provided by former S.H.I.E.L.D. director Nick Fury. As a last gasp attack, Ultron hijacks the Avengers Quinjet and kills Pietro Maximoff, who is shielding Clint Barton, Hawkeye, and a Sokovian child from the overhead gunfire. Ultron manages to activate the machine, but Stark and Thor successfully vaporize it to prevent the impact to the surface. In the aftermath, the Hulk flees the scene in the Quinjet, and the Vision destroys the last remaining Ultron drone. Tony Stark establishes a new Avengers facility located in upstate New York and retires alongside Barton. Thor returns to Asgard to investigate the Infinity Stones, and Steve Rogers, Captain America, and Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, lead up a new squadron of Avengers consisting of James, War Machine Rhodes, the Vision, Sam, the Falcon Wilson, and Wanda, the Scarlet Witch Maximoff. Boom. You looking for this?
Yeah.
It's Avengers Age of Ultron, guys. Hey!
What?
So maybe drive down there and beat you up.
Now.
Well said, man. Well said.
I'll start on this one since you guys stole my thunder on Guardians for way too long.
Yeah,
I think this is a messy movie, but to me, this is kind of the perfect middle chapter of the Avengers saga in a way, where it's just kind of, it's just the Avengers kind of doing their thing. Obviously it's kind of, I guess, Tony Stark's fuck up to the biggest extent. But, it's the Avengers, we see them kind of in media res, just doing their thing, looking for Loki's scepter, and we kind of just go on this big adventure with them, this globe-trotting adventure with them that goes from, fictional nation of Sokovia, and they go to Seoul, South Korea. It's just kind of all over the place, and it's really cool. And it's fun to kind of just go on this adventure with them. I think it's got issues. I think that there's way too much going on. Everyone's a bit too quippy. Some of the characters just don't feel quite as well serviced as they have been either in previous entries or as they could have been in this entry. But I think there's a lot to really pull out of it, and I think that with the benefit of hindsight, with the benefit of a lot of the setup and a lot of the groundwork that it lays for Phase 3, now that we've seen a lot of those Phase 3 movies, I think that it retroactively improves this movies in some ways, because we can kind of see the vision for a lot of it. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I like this movie. Again, I think I'm probably softer on this movie. If I had to think about it purely in terms of a standalone movie, I don't know how well it really works, but as something that works as kind of another cog in the machine, I think that it's really enjoyable. I mean, it's a 2 hour and 20-minute movie, but I always find it enjoyable to rewatch. I think it's kind of a very rewatchable movie for me, and as kind of something that sets the stages for what's to come. I enjoy it from that standpoint. So what do you guys think?
That's very well said, and I agree that there are many issues in this film, and a lot of it is trying to set up 10 different movies in Infinity War and Thor Ragnarok and Civil War. But in the end, it's an Avengers film, and who doesn't love to see Captain America, Iron Man, the Incredible Hulk, Thor, Hawkeye, and Black Widow, and now you add the Vision, Scarlet Witch, and for this installment, Quicksilver. Not the same Quicksilver as the X-Men franchise, except he's is the same person, but he's not the same person. We don't have to get into that, but it's a lot of fun. There's great action, especially in the beginning. You see the Avengers come in, and they're already the Avengers, so they're just wrecking shit in Hydra bases. So some of the things I like about this movie is I like what they did with Hawkeye. Hawkeye in the first movie is literally mind controlled for at least half of it. So he doesn't get a lot of development. And then you see Hawkeye now, he goes from being kind of the joke Avenger to having a lot of heart and a lot of responsibility for the team. And you get to meet his family, which is kind of threw you for a loop. And I feel like the entire movie sets up his death, which then Joss Whedon likes to throw you for another loop and then be like, nope, he's not going to die. Quicksilver is going to die. Which I think makes sense. You don't have to worry about this issue with two Quicksilvers, and it helps develop Scarlet Witch, which I guess she's not called that, but Wanda Maximoff's character. And, it gives Hawkeye more depth to his character as well. It also sets up Black Panther, very briefly with Claw and Vibranium. But some of the issues that I had was, again, the main villain, James Spader. I really enjoyed him as Ultron, but he just felt very rushed. Like he was born in less than 5 minutes and he became a villain, which, I guess he has the computing capacity, beyond of which us humans can comprehend, but it just seems like he's born, he realizes that humans are bad, so he's going to wipe out all of humankind and start over again, which makes sense, but it's just, his development feels very rushed, and he never feels as menacing to me as the Ultron from the comics, who can be quite terrifying, because he makes a lot of jokes, and I think that's okay, but this movie definitely overdoes it with the quipping and the jokes. And they have a few good jokes in there, but it really takes away, I think, from a lot of the drama and the seriousness that this movie should have when a rogue AI is trying to annihilate mankind. But aside from that, I had an issue with Black Widow's character too, and I know that I'm not the only one, because Joss Whedon quit Twitter or something like that because of all the hate mail that he was getting, which is a little much. But I think it was because Joss Whedon was known for having really strong female characters in his films and TV shows, and he goes from having the Black Widow, who was one of the main characters in Captain America: The Winter Soldier to now being a love interest for Bruce Banner in a way, which I don't know. Like, I don't hate that they paired the two of them together. Like, I could see why they would share things and be attracted to each other, but also they just seemed, I feel like they reduced her character a lot in many ways.
Well, that's kind of her big arc in this movie, is just trying to grapple with that potential relationship with Banner.
Yeah.
It feels definitely like a downgrade from Winter Soldier, where she's very much her own agent. You know, she has agency. She is her own person. And yeah, she's got moments with Cap, but, you know, like we talked about, it's not overtly romantic. Certainly you could interpret that if you wanted to kind of take it that direction, but it's very much, you know, these two people trust each other. They, you know, they realize what's at stake and, you know, believe in each other. And this one, it's like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, she's still a team player, but, you know, her whole kind of thing is just really kind of comes down to being a romantic interest in some ways. I think the actual Twitter backlash was more in response to people misinterpreting the I'm a monster line. Yeah. People are like, oh, she can't have kids, so she's a monster. Like, that's ridiculous, Joss. I'm like, oh, it's not really that. It's more the fact that, you know, she was trained as a spy from being a small child, and she, you know, went through this horrifying procedure to, you know, make her sterile, and she did it willingly as part of this whole thing that makes her monstrous, and that she's done horrible things in her past. Not that specifically. So I think that was obviously a little overblown, but that's Twitter for you. So,
I mean, I've alluded to some, but there are a lot of good things in the movie, a lot of fun things, and we see Iron Man fight the Hulk in a Hulkbuster suit, which was a lot of fun. We see what else was I going to get into? I mentioned the intro sequence, and the ending sequence is fun too. Like, you get to see S.H.I.E.L.D. as what S.H.I.E.L.D. should be, and I think Vision is a great addition to the team. You know, they build up this whole, you know, only Thor is worthy to hold Mjolnir, and Cap almost does it, which really freaks out Thor. But then everyone, as soon as Vision's born, everyone's unsure. Like, should we trust him? His mind is similar to Ultron, and then all of a sudden he can lift the hammer, and everyone's like, "All right, I'm good. Like, if he can hold the hammer, like, he's good. He's one of us."
It settles that.
Yeah, which that was a great scene, and so yeah, I enjoy this movie a whole lot. It's not perfect. To me, it's not on the same level as the first Avengers film, but I always enjoy me some Avengers getting together.
See, I don't know. I like this one. I thought that I enjoyed like the modern day Frankenstein told within the Marvel drapings. You know what I mean? And how like Ultron was like the hubris, or the you know, the hubris of Tony, you know, in a lot of ways. And I don't know. I thought that I really liked James Spader. I thought he was awesome. And then when Vision and it's nonstop throughout the movie. You know what I mean? From the get-go, it's on, with the exception of maybe the cabin sequence, which is very short and contained, and it had its, you know, that's kind of where all those character moments, you know, kind of flourish. But from the get-go, it's all straight on action, and I like the whole AI thing. I think that's an interesting. I think it's interesting. It's an interesting topic. I think that I really like the Vision. I like when he's born and he emerges from the capsule, you know, and he's just looking around and stuff, and everybody doesn't know how to handle it. I really enjoyed that. And it's another, the choreography in this movie is really good too. The S.H.I.E.L.D. combos. God damn, the S.H.I.E.L.D. combos, man. Captain America giving everybody a shield. You got Thor whomping on it with his hammer. You got all sorts of crazy shit going on with the S.H.I.E.L.D. I thought that was fun. I don't know. I like this one. I like the movie. That was pretty good. I didn't have any overt problems with with Ultron. Some of the jokes and stuff didn't really hit the mark with me.
Beep beep.
Yeah, but
Language,
yeah, that was consistent. I did enjoy the language thing. I thought that was fun. It kept going on and on and on and on. I thought that was, I don't know. I thought that was funny. But yeah, like I said, I don't have any big glaring problems with this one. I thought it was a fun movie. I tell you what I didn't care for. And this carries over from the first time I saw it too. I remembered having a problem with it. I didn't enjoy the final battle. It was just very it felt I can't talk. God damn it. Claustrophobic. And it felt very I don't know. It just kind of felt contrived, I think, in a big way. I mean, I know it wasn't really contrived. They were all trying to get to that giant switch or whatever the fuck it was, but yeah, I don't know. It just didn't really do anything for me.
Well, it's kind of samey in the sense that it's the Avengers finale on a different setting with robots instead of aliens. It's these faceless goons for the Avengers to punch their way through.
Right.
And it's kind of fun to see them just kind of totally work their way through this, massive faceless army, but at the same time, it also runs into the issue of, well, we've seen this before. It's not as visually interesting as it might have once been. So I agree with you from that standpoint.
But aside from that, I mean, that's pretty much it. I enjoyed Ultron as a villain. I thought he was fine. He had a couple of good lines. I enjoyed, like I said, in a lot of ways, I kind of think it felt like a modern day Frankenstein, where he's been rejected by the person that built him. Although it kind of varies a little bit because from the get go he hates fucking Tony. So I don't know. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
I enjoyed it a lot. I just think that it's messy, and I think that as a standalone thing, it's not really conducive to being that sort of thing. But as something that is kind of, like I said, your middle chapter, I think it works well in that regard. If this was kind of the finale for all the Avengers movies, I would kind of be like, oh, okay. But as something that's kind of just a recap of what came before and setting the table for what is to come, I think it does that fairly well, if a bit messy. I mean, certainly stuff like the Infinity Stones, Thor going into the cave, that whole subplot was obviously hacked to hell in the editing room, and I don't think it works really well because it's just more about, we need to establish that the Infinity Stones are a thing, and someone is, playing a big game with all the, it's all kind of just like, all right, I mean, I get what's happening here, but it's not really serving any sort of real interest within this movie itself.
I did enjoy it. I'd say it was cool. I kind of cut it off. It comes to me in spurts. Thor rushes in. Everybody's fighting and bickering over what to do about the capsule with the Vision in it. Thor just comes rushing in there with his fucking hammer, summons lightning, and smashes it. Poof! And Thor gives no shits. I thought that was cool. Anyways, you can continue.
Well, it doesn't really smash it. He charges it.
Yeah, right. He fills the batteries up.
No. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot to add other than what we've touched on already. But I enjoyed the new additions to the cast. I like Ultron. I think something closer to the comic book Ultron would have been good. If I was handling it, I think that having basically 2/3 of what we already had as this Ultron would have been really interesting. And then by the final act, he kind of evolves and says, you know what, why am I making myself so, why am I making myself so people-centric? Why am I modeling myself after that? Let me embrace the robotic nature. If we got like a comic book inspired design where, he doesn't have teeth for some reason.
Dude, I had a problem with this. I had a serious problem with his teeth.
Yeah, like just little things like that. It's kind of just like, okay, like if he starts as something that, he models himself after humanity, but he's so hell-bent on destructing humanity, then it would make sense for him to kind of think that let me become the next form of evolution. Let me become my own thing. I think something like that could have been interesting if they played with an idea of like a lot. If they played with an idea like that, but part of that is also just kind of like, well, I think the actual design of Ultron could have been a lot better to begin with. I think James Spader is excellent as the Ultron that we see in this movie. I mean, as far as his motivations, I actually kind of get that. I agree it's very accelerated, but at the same time, if you were able to absorb the entire internet in the span of like a minute or two, think about the shits that's on there.
Oh yeah, dude, you'd be fucked
it would be
up.
hard to not feel like humanity was a mistake immediately. If you could really kind of access, kind of the dark corners of the internet, certainly.
Yeah, just go to the YouTube comment section.
Yeah, that's a good start. There's a lot of aspects to the internet where I'm kind of just like, he's got a point. Beyond Ultron, I think Lizzie Olsen, her accent is very spotty here, but I like her a lot, and I think that Scarlet Witch is a really cool character, and I'm cool in both senses of the word, as we've established here on Watch Review Repeat.
This is pretty cool.
But I really like her as a character, and I like Elizabeth Olsen as an actress, and I think that she's a good addition as both a villain and an eventual hero in this movie. And Quicksilver, it's hard to say because obviously we don't really get a chance to see Quicksilver outside of this movie. I enjoy the brief moments that we have with him. You didn't see that coming. He has some snappy dialogue with Hawkeye that I enjoyed, and he and Scarlet Witch seems like they have a nice relationship that fortunately doesn't seem to delve into the ultimate version of their relationship, which is good. We can keep the incest in Game of Thrones and call it at that point. And the Vision, you guys talked about. I think the Vision is fucking excellent. I think the design is really great, and I think Paul Bettany's performance as the Vision is awesome in this. So I think the new additions are cool. I like having like an ever-changing, ever-expanding roster for the Avengers, so it's kind of cool to see, Iron Man and Thor kind of shuffle out, and then, you get Falcon in there, you get War Machine as an Avenger, you get Scarlet Witch as an Avenger, and, Quicksilver, obviously, live to see another day, he'd probably be on the team too, and it's cool to see a lot of that, so I like that. I like that aspect of it, so, as very much something that is in service of a greater universe, I enjoy it. As a standalone adventure, I think it's fine, it's enjoyable, but it's messy, and it's not overall completely cohesive in a way that I think the first Avengers stands alone. So that's kind of where I stand on it. Post credits. You guys ready for post credits?
Yeah.
Let's dig in, man.
Fine, I'll do it myself.
That was cool.
It's little Thanos action, grabbing the Infinity Gauntlet. Doesn't really seem like it's super relevant to this movie, but again, it's one of those things. It's like, well, if they're setting the stage for what's to come, then Thanos grabbing the real Infinity Gauntlet definitely seems like a pretty big stepping stone to going on his little Infinity Stone collecting quest. So yeah, it's cool. It's not my favorite, but seeing Thanos pop up for a minute is kind of neat.
Yeah, I mean, I like Thanos. Again, it seemed like they tried to set up a lot of future films with this movie, and this was definitely part of it. So it's fine.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
Favorite moments. Who would like to begin here?
I like the no strings on me. I like that.
There are no strings on me.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's cool.
I guess Ultron watched Pinocchio when he absorbed the internet.
Yeah, of course. Who wouldn't? But I thought it was kind of creepy and a little weird, and I don't know. Just I thought that was cool. And I also like the birth of the Vision. I thought that was cool too.
Mm-hmm. Henry?
I was debating between two, and I'm gonna go with a non-action scene here: the party at the Avengers Tower. After they defeat the last remnants of Hydra, and they're just out to revel. And you see the Avengers interact in a party environment, which is a lot of fun. A lot of jokes go around. You get a Stan Lee cameo. Thor's handing out his magical drink aged in 1,000-year caskets of something in a star or whatever. Cap acknowledges the romance between Natasha and Bruce. And then you get that scene, which I think was one of the trailers, where they're all trying to lift Thor's hammer, and
whosoever be he worthy shall haveth the power.
That's a fun, that's a fun scene, because everyone, does it kind of for a different reason. And you see Iron Man is like, I'm going to figure out this trick. It's got to be fingerprints, and Cap just jiggling it was enough for me. That
yeah, Thor briefly losing his shit for all of a second.
I would have liked to see him just straight up like lift it up and be like, "Of course I'm worthy. I'm Captain America." But just the acknowledgement of it was enough for me.
I liked the conversation down the hallway. That was funny. When they were talking about it in the elevator.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's like Maria Hill's explaining their powers. Is that one?
It was Thor, Captain America, and
you talking about the end of the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, and they're like, elevator would go up.
Right.
That's
yeah.
The worthiness for the hammer. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. I actually will agree with Henry. That's my favorite moment. I think that's the best character moment in this movie, and I think that's where this movie shines, is character moments. So the house party, I think, is really the best example of that. I think the farmhouse is a close second, especially that bit we see with Tony and Steve, kind of when they're chopping wood. We get a little Civil War prelude in some ways. So that's my favorite. I had a second one that I wanted to mention.
Go for it. It's pretty much right before, I think, kind of Ultron has their big battle sequence, and Tony's like the old man said, together. And they all kind of just it's got that. To me, that has the same punchiness of the. Not quite the same, but it has kind of it approaches the punchiness of the that's my secret, Cap. That's all. I'm always angry. It's kind of the same kind of moment where you get that snappy dialogue, and then boom, shit really kind of hits the fan. I enjoy that. I mean, I think in the scheme of things, like I said, the one I picked is what I would choose as my overall favorite. But that one is always kind of that's the dialogue for me that I'm like, fuck yeah,
that's cool.
So it's a close second for me. Last movie of Phase 2.
Yeah.
Ant-Man. Ants. Ants. Ant-Man. Released July 17th, 2015. Written by, these are some big names, Edgar Wright and Joe Cornish, and Adam McKay and Paul Rudd. Directed by Peyton Reed, starring Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Corey Stoll, and Michael Douglas. Henry, we leave you with the final summary for the day.
Okay. I'm going to try to shorten this a little bit because I wrote this on the subway ride this morning. So I'm looking at it. I'm like, this is kind of long. I don't need to go over this or else they're going to fall asleep. But basically, here we are in 1989. With the brilliant scientist Dr. Hank Pym, played by Michael Douglas, who ends up quitting S.H.I.E.L.D. because he has created a particle, so-called the Pym particle, that can reduce the space between atoms and thus shrink anything. And we later find out that he uses this technology to become the Ant-Man, the OG Ant-Man. But S.H.I.E.L.D. is trying to use this technology for warfare, and he is not having it. So he quits S.H.I.E.L.D., punches the student in the face, tells Peggy Carter that he's out and he doesn't want to work with Howard Stark. And then we now come to the present, where we meet Scott Lang, who is a cat burglar who was imprisoned for basically being Robin Hood. The company cheated out a lot of people. He helps restore this with his tech skills, and he gets caught, has to go to prison for it. When he gets out of prison, he vows to leave the life of crime because he has a daughter that he cares about so much, and she now is living with her mother and that mother's boyfriend who works for the police. So Scott wants to earn her trust back. And meanwhile, Hank Pym has to deal with his old protege, Darren Cross, who is trying to recreate the Pym particles in order to create an army of shrinking soldiers, because he was aware of the Ant-Man project and realizes how that can be weaponized. So Scott eventually has to turn to crime after being fired from Baskin-Robbins because Baskin-Robbins always finds out. And he needs some money because he needs to pay for, child support to see his daughter. So he gets friend from his buddy, Luis, who tells him in the most intricate and detailed way possible that there is an old man who is very rich and he lives in a house and he's going to be gone and he has a big safe. So Scott Lang, being the master cat burglar that he is, breaks into the house with his ingenious skills, robs the place only to find a suit. And he leaves. He's very disappointed to score. He was expecting to find something of great value that he could sell and make some money off of it. But he nonetheless tries on the suit, and only to discover that it shrinks him to the size of an ant. He is freaked out as he runs away from a naked Michael Pena, which we do not see. And he eventually gets his first trial of the Ant-Man suit with Hank Pym telling him some details of whatnot. So he gets freaked out. He tries to return the suit, but gets caught because, as we later find out, Hank Pym's daughter, Hope Van Dyne, calls the cops on him. And so Scott's in jail. Meanwhile, Darren Cross has created a new suit, which he dubs the Yellow Jacket, and he plans to sell that to Hydra once he finalizes the Pym particles in order to shrink living creatures. So, Hank helps Scott escape from jail and essentially recruits him to become the new Ant-Man because he makes up some excuse that he can't be the Ant-Man. It takes a toll on his body or something very vague. And he doesn't want his daughter to be the Ant-Man, which she does resent him for it. But nonetheless, they help train Scott despite him, not having any relation to them whatsoever. And throughout this training, we find out that Hope's mother was actually the original Wasp, who fought alongside Ant-Man during their Soviet days. And she supposedly died by altering the regulator in her suit and shrinking to subatomic levels in order to destroy a titanium Soviet missile. And she is never heard from again. So Hope loses her mother, Hank loses his wife, and that causes a rift in their relationship from then on. So, in the present time, they continue to train. Scott Lang not only learns to use the suit, but learns how to communicate with ants through some vague scientific things that they use in this movie. And their whole plot is that they need to steal the Yellow Jacket suit and the technology from Darren Cross before he weaponizes Hank Pym's brilliant Pym particles. So they set up their plan to go steal the suit. It gets a little complicated, so they recruit some help from none other than Luis and Scott's other gang of misfits, including T.I., who basically plays T.I. in this film. And they go on, they use the help of many different kinds of ants. But as Scott is close to recovering the Yellow Jacket suit, they are thwarted because Darren Cross has discovered their plan. And he's now perfected the technology to shrink humans. And he is going to sell that technology to Hydra. He's going to kill Hank Pym and everyone else. But he's not quite successful. He's able to shoot and wound Hank Pym. But Scott continues to chase Darren Cross. And Darren Cross eventually dons the new Yellow Jacket suit. And they have a fight between Ant-Man and Yellow Jacket. But just as Ant-Man wins, he gets captured by the police by none other than his baby mama's new boyfriend. So Darren Cross, the Yellow Jacket, is able to escape, and Scott is on his way to prison when they discover that a threat is happening in the house of Scott's daughter. So naturally they go. Who else is there but Yellow Jacket to lure Scott there? And they have a size warping fight where they throw around toy trains and all sorts of ridiculousness that you would never expect in a superhero film. But in the end, the only way that Ant-Man or Scott Lang can defeat Cross is to go through his titanium suit. And the only way he can do that is to go subatomic. So he does and destroys Yellow Jacket in the process, but gets stuck in the, what is it called? The quantum realm?
Subatomic, quantum realm, yeah.
The quantum realm, which is basically he shrunk past the subatomic level. Like he is beyond the smallest of the small. But Scott Lang eventually is able to escape that realm. He returns, and with the newfound respect, the police let him escape. We then see Scott reunite with his family, and, things are turning out better for him. Lastly, we see Luis tell Scott that a certain Avenger, which he had an encounter with during his training phase in the film, the Falcon, has been looking for him. So we are now led to believe that Ant-Man will return with the Avengers.
A lot of shit there.
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man. I like this movie a lot.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
It's pretty good, yes. This was the only Marvel movie I had only seen one time in theaters. So when we took on this project, I was really excited to watch it again because I really remember I remember really enjoying it when I caught it in theaters, and I enjoyed it a lot this time too. It's really good. It's fresh, another fresh take for Phase 2. Yeah. Felt very much like a heist movie versus a superhero movie. And I really enjoyed that take on it. Something that really hasn't. I don't know. I don't think that's been done to date again, But I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It was really, really funny. Paul Rudd is a fucking boss, man. He's hilarious.
And he got ripped for it, too.
And he got ripped. Yes,
yeah.
He did.
One of them, a Marvel diet. Shit, man.
Paul Rudd, Chris Pratt,
And that one chick's pretty cool, too. Hope's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think the elephant in the room, certainly with this movie, is Edgar Wright, who we know is an incredible filmmaker and was involved with this since, I want to say, like 2006. I mean, this movie has been, prior to its release, had been in development for pretty much a decade at that point. Edgar Wright was writing and directing it. It was probably going to be one of the first movies in the MCU alongside Iron Man, and it just got delayed as Edgar Wright was kind of working on other projects. And then push came to shove. Edgar Wright and Marvel, more behind the scenes kind of issues, had creative differences, and he departed the project. I think kind of a lot of went into it is I think that he had issues integrating it into the larger universe, and I'm sure there was probably more things than just that, but it's a pretty big blow to lose someone like Edgar Wright, and then here comes Peyton Reed, who not really a filmmaker I think a lot of people are familiar with, and he kind of has to kind of put the pieces together and make this movie. And I think that all that said, I think that this is a really, really clever, creative, and inspired movie. I'm sure the people that like this movie can I'm sure you could say that everything good in this movie is Edgar Wright's and everything bad in this movie is not Edgar Wright's. I mean, I don't think it's as simple as that personally, but I think that's kind of the narrative that kind of goes with this movie, because Edgar Wright has that kind of following that he does. But I mean, to me, this is some of the best comedy, certainly up till that point in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, it's definitely got a much more comedic flavor, I would say, than a lot of the other movies that come before it. And certainly when you're casting Paul Rudd, of all people, to be your lead, that's kind of the angle that you're probably going for. And it's a good angle to go for. Michael Pena is spectacular here.
He's awesome.
Everything with Luis is fucking gold. Which, for the record, all those sequences of Luis kind of, telling his tales to Scott Lang.
Yeah.
Those are all Peyton Reed type things. Those weren't there in the Edgar Wright version of it. So that's kind of the counterpoint to saying that Edgar Wright is kind of the driving force behind this being as good as it is. It's a really sweet movie. I mean, I think it kind of boils down to Scott Lang being a pretty relatable character, obviously, in spite of being a criminal. Obviously Henry mentioned he's got kind of the Robin Hood motivations for that, so that kind of makes him kind of, maybe a cut above your standard criminal, I guess, if you wanted to put it as such. But he's got a daughter. I think he's the first. I guess Hawkeye has family, but we didn't know about that. But it's first character, really, I think, that has had a kid as his primary motivation for doing the things that he does. And obviously he pursues a life of crime, as it was, to kind of support her, and that eventually lands him square in the lap of Hank Pym and becoming the Ant-Man, as it was. But I mean, it's really good. It's really good, and I think that it's certainly the use of the shrinking and enlarging technology, the PIM particles in this. I think that they do it in really, really creative ways in this, and I think that makes for really, really fun visual storytelling in this. So I agree. I like this movie a lot. I think it's one of the best quote unquote origin movies that they've done, and I think that it helps that it's not your standard origin movie. It's more of a passing the torch kind of thing. I don't think we've really gotten a whole lot of that, I guess, in the MCU. So it's nice having that built-in history of Hank Pym as Ant-Man operating for S.H.I.E.L.D. in, the 60s and stuff like that, which we get, the briefest history of, and we see the Wasp, and I don't know, it's cool to see. It's cool to see that kind of dynamic, the mentor-protege dynamic. I like that a lot in this too. So, and Hope's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I of course love Paul Rudd as Scott Lang. It's not the first Marvel movie that's funny, but he kind of brings like a different. I can't describe it, but it almost seems like a different kind of humor to this film than previous Marvel movies, and obviously the future Wasp, or Hope Van Dyne, Evangeline Lilly's great. Like, she's a very standoffish character at first, and I don't know, I guess I was kind of hesitant towards her, but then you learn more about her and why she's so against her father, and it makes a lot of sense. And I really liked Hank Pym in this movie, played by Michael Douglas, and Hank Pym's probably one of my favorite characters from the comics, just because he's in a sense a hero that doesn't want to be a hero, and you kind of see some of that in this film. Like, he doesn't want his technology becoming militarized or being used as a weapon, and he'll do whatever it takes to stop that from happening. And so I enjoyed Ant-Man, both the past and present. I hope we get to see some more of the old school Ant-Man and flashbacks in the sequel somehow. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think that would be a really great cold open if they did that. And, just a mission with him, with Michelle Pfeiffer as the Wasp. Yeah. I think that would be the best way to kind of integrate it. And then obviously, sequel territory wise, they'd get into possibly rescuing, the Wasp from the quantum realm, from the microverse. I think that would definitely be really cool. So, sorry, I cut you off.
No, Michael Pena is hilarious as Luis. in his retelling sequences. And I like the fight between Ant-Man and the Falcon. Anytime two Avengers go at it, it's just fun to see. It's just you picture it in your mind, and then it happens, and it's fun. And it's not Iron Man versus Thor, but that's fine. Like, I like the Falcon, I like Ant-Man. It was a very entertaining sequence. They're not trying to kill each other, so it's a lot of fun. My biggest problem with the movie is kind of a reoccurring theme up to this point for Phase 2 and Phase 1 as well. Just having a villain that's pretty weak. Darren Cross. I just thought they made him too cartoonishly evil.
He turns that guy into a splatter in the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly.
I really value your input, Frank. We should have a further discussion on this later.
He, the scene where he's killing little lambs, and then Hope's like, I thought you were using mice, and he's like, what's the difference? I'm just like, oh, okay, like, we get it. This guy's a dick. I don't like him. His suit was really cool. I like the Yellow Jacket suit a lot. Yeah. But his character.
Well, it's the first time I think
ridiculous.
It feels like is it the first time in Phase 2 that we can't get the that usual trope of, hey, the villain's the exact same as the hero kind of thing. It seems like we've gotten away from that for a little while. I mean, I guess Winter Soldier, I guess maybe if you want to is kind of that for Captain America.
Maybe.
But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I think it's like we talked about it on our first episode, where it was kind of a lot of the heroes fighting themselves. Oh, gee, that's the original, and this one's very much kind of exactly that. So
there's a lot of parallels to Iron Man 1, in this film, I think. But that's what started off the MCU, and it was a hit, and it worked. And that's fine. It's a good film.
Yeah, I agree. We all have drinks, right? I think this would be a good time to pour one out for our fallen hero, Anthony.
Yeah. Anthony.
I'll call you Anthony.
Rest in peace, little guy. Rest in peace.
Anthony.
I don't actually have a whole lot more notes on this, other than to say that, again, I think a lot of the sequences here are really awesome. I think the use of kind of the macro photography, the first kind of introduction when he, goes into the bathtub, like it's really cool. It's another dimension to this universe that we've really haven't seen. Even just that scene of him, like I said, he gets knocked out of the bathtub, and he goes through his neighbors downstairs having their little party. It's cool to kind of see just a lot of very different kind of environments, and the ants themselves. I mean, the ants themselves in some ways are kind of characters. Certainly Anthony counts. But I don't know. It's a movie that
I had a hard time with some of it. Some of that scene.
In what sense?
That scene. Well, there's just inconsistencies in the way they treat him. Right? So he falls from the bathtub and he lands on the tile floor.
And he creates that dent.
Cracks the tile, right? And then he falls in between the crack and he falls through the drywall on the ceiling. Poof, right? Because he's dense. He's dense like a human, right? But he's pinpoint. He's just so small. And then he falls on the record player but doesn't break the table or the record. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think that the whole science of it is definitely inconsistent. I think probably, moreover, if you want to point to things that kind of don't make sense, Hank's keychain is a tank. So if it's were to assume that it retains the density of it, then he's technically carrying a tank in his pocket, which is probably pretty heavy. So yeah, I can throw that out as just being wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey science shit. So I agree that it's all kind of the way that it's explained because he's supposed to retain his density and increase his strength. I'm like, well, it's not really consistent through everything. Maybe if you're inorganic, it doesn't affect you. It doesn't matter. That's my point. Right. It doesn't matter. I agree with you, but at the same time,
I can hand wave. What the fuck?
I can hand wave that because it's like, okay, in the scheme of things, I don't know how realistic they're really trying to make this. So yeah. But I see your point. Post credits. Any last thoughts? Are we ready to go? Post credits. So our mid credit sequence, we see a suit reveal for the Wasp.
Fucking
the prototype version of the Wasp that Hank presents to Hope. It's about damn time, as she says, and I mean she's right. So I like this a lot. It seems like the suit we're getting in Ant-Man and the Wasp is a little less colorful than the one that we kind of see as the prototype here, which is kind of disappointing, I think. But maybe if you're trying to go for stealth, having less colors on your suits probably the way to go. But I've always enjoyed this middle one as a nice kind of nod to the future. And I remember when they announced the sequel literally being called Ant-Man and the Wasp, I'm like, that is the perfect fucking title.
That's
like
cool.
that is ballin'. I love that. So I'm a big fan of this one here too.
No, I like it. I'm looking forward to seeing the Wasp in action, and the trailer for the new movie already gives us a good sneak peek of that.
Yeah, and I like that the there was at least somewhat of an in-universe explanation for why he was suiting up Scott Lang instead of just giving Hope the suit. They kind of addressed him like, well, why the fuck is this an Ant-Man movie? Because she's clearly way more qualified to be the Ant-Man than he is. So I'm glad that they kind of addressed that and instead of making it an obvious vulnerability for it. But the last credit sequence we see is quite literally a scene from Captain America Civil War, kind of alluding to Falcon's run-in with Ant-Man and his eventual involvement in the events of Civil War. So I don't know that there's really too much to add on this one. It's kind of a nice little nod to what happens.
I thought it was funny.
It's nice, but given that in a month or so we're going to be talking a lot more about Captain America Civil War, I think we can probably kind of leave it there for now. And I think we can probably call it here for our phase 2 ones, don't you think?
Yeah. I don't know how this would have made sense, but I still wish that Ant-Man would have made Ultron.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point. I meant to mention that.
Like so much of this stuff. But
I mean, honestly, it really could be as simple as instead of Ultron being a former Stark thing, it could have been something that he dug up in the SHIELD files that Pym were working on. Yeah. I think you could have easily made it something that was more Hank Pym involved to tie it more into the comics, but it wasn't necessary. No, but I do agree. And it's probably also kind of a side casualty of the Edgar Wright Ant-Man taking so long to gestate.
Exactly.
If Ant-Man takes place in phase 1, then I would bet good money that the Ultron would be much more of a Hank Pym creation than a Tony Stark creation as it was. So, I agree. But not it's we have the comics and we have the movies, and sometimes we have to kind of just separate them and accept their differences. And I can put that aside as something that I'm like, yeah, it does feel like a missed opportunity, but in the scene, it doesn't hurt anything, I guess, in the scheme of things. So, you guys want to do some rankings, some updated Marvel Cinematic Universe rankings through Phase 2? So all 12 movies that we've rewatched up to this point.
That's a lot of movies.
Let's do it.
It is a lot. We'll count backwards. We'll start from 12 and work our way up to 1. Let's maybe until we get to 5. Can we kind of breeze through this?
Yes.
Want to give like 3 or 4 at a time? I guess maybe like 4, because I personally divided mine into 3 categories. Like the top third,
okay.
Bottom third, middle third. I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. You good with that, Andrew?
Yeah, it's fine. Whatever you guys want to do.
I might as well ranked anyway. So, all right. So, who wants to start? I guess 12 through 9.
You start, Henry. Get us the pattern of what you want to do here.
All right. Starting from the bottom, we have Thor: The Dark World. We talked about it. It's very generic. It's not bad, but it's very Then we have Iron Man 2. Kind of along the same lines. Then number 10, The Incredible Hulk. I enjoyed it, but it had a lot of issues there. And then number 9 for me was Iron Man 3. It's just some aspects of it were really great. Other aspects of it I didn't enjoy so much. So I had it on my bottom third of the current MCU.
What are your thirds, Colton?
I have the same 4 in a different order. So I have Iron Man 2 at 12, Incredible Hulk at 11, Thor: The Dark World at 10, and Iron Man 3 at 9. I think that I look at each of these as kind of their own entities, and I think that Iron Man 2 is too inconsistent. too all over the place to be better, to be higher ranked, I guess. Let me say, I don't think it's bad. I just think it's just super messy. The Incredible Hulk, we talked about it last episode. It's got its own issues. Thor: The Dark World, I think its biggest issue is that it just contributes really nothing. But I don't know that it's mostly inoffensive. In Iron Man 3, I agree. It's fine. I think it's a cut above the other three here, but it's just too all over the place for me to really kind of put it above anything else in the universe so far. Andrew?
Number 12 is Incredible Hulk. Number 11 is Iron Man 2. Number 10 is Dark World. And number 9 is Iron Man 3.
Yeah, so we got all the same 4 movies.
We do.
Just in varying orders across the board. I was thinking we were going to get some more disparity as we kind of open these up to 12 movies, but it's interesting that we all kind of feel the same way about the bottom 4. So that's fun. Did you want to add anything to that, Andrew?
No. We've talked about these movies before, man. I don't know if I had the same order or not. I didn't go back and look, but Incredible Hulk just kind of feels like, in and of itself, it's like it doesn't belong in this package, you know what I mean? Right. So for that, it kind of, I don't know. And then we obviously share pretty much the same opinion about all the other movies, so there's not a lot to be said.
Indeed. All right, Henry, we'll let you take it through 8 through 5, I guess.
Yes. So this for me is the category where these movies are good, right? Like, these are all movies I would recommend people to go watch, just in general. For me, number 8 is the first Thor movie. And number 6 and 7, I actually had to split. And I gave 2 number 6s because to me, they're both on the same plane. And that was Ant-Man and Captain America, the First Avenger. So I don't know if you can make me pick one over the other, but I'll probably change my mind. So for now, I'm just going to leave them both at number 6 and have number 5 as Avengers Age of Ultron. I'll put it just a tad above both the first Captain America and Ant-Man, which we've just talked about, even though I really enjoyed all of those movies.
Interesting. Let me follow on to that. I will agree that when you get to this point, all these movies are good, and some of them are even bordering on great. I think there's something that holds them back, but I really enjoy all these movies, and I would definitely heartily recommend every movie that I have listed here. So don't let the fact that it's this far down a list kind of make you think that I don't like it. Number 8, I also have Thor. Number 7, I have Avengers: Age of Ultron. Number 6, I have Ant-Man, very close to that, and then number 5, I have Captain America: The First Avenger. So I have all the same movies, just again, very, very slightly different order to what you have. I actually had Age of Ultron higher up initially, and the more I thought about it as a standalone kind of thing, and I'm like, it kind of loses its luster as its own thing in some ways. It's enjoyable, but I when I see it in the scheme of things, I like it more, and then when I kind of just like, let me, if I had to recommend to this someone as an isolated entry, I'm kind of just like, I'd have a hard time doing it in some ways, compared to some of the other ones here. So that's why I have it at number 7 and not higher as I initially did. Andrew?
All right. I've got number 8 with Thor, number 7 with Iron Man, the original Iron Man, number 6 with Captain America, the First Avenger, and number 5... Ultron, Age of Ultron. I think I really enjoyed Captain America. I enjoyed the reason Ultron is above these origin stories for me is just because I think that I like the rogue AI kind of. I like that trope. I thought it was a fun movie. I thought it was good. It was entertaining. Thought it was well choreographed. And a lot of those origin stories are samey. Like they had in the first Avenger, you had that sequence where it was just a montage. I didn't enjoy that at all. But overall, it was a really good movie, and I thought it was better than Iron Man and Thor. So I don't know. That's why that's my second third of movies. So what do you got for your top your top 4, Henry.
All right. These are my great MCU films. These are the films that you need to watch. Like, if I can't get you to sit down and watch some Marvel movies, I'm gonna force these 4 into your eyeballs. So number 4, I have the original Iron Man, the one that started it all. Number 3, I have Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 2, and this was very difficult for me. 1 and 2, it was a struggle, and I can't have 2 number 1s. So I have to give number 2 to the Avengers and give number 1 to Captain America, the Winter Soldier, which is incredible to me. It's just the perfect Captain America movie.
I have exactly the same top 4 as Henry.
Oh, wow.
Number 4, Iron Man, 3 Guardians, 2 Avengers, and 1 Captain America, the Winter Soldier. I will say I did not struggle at all to place my number 1. I think the Winter Soldier is easily better than the Avengers. For me personally, it's the one that I just am most attached to, certainly through Phase 2. And so that was an easy number 1 for me. The harder thing for me was where to put Avengers and Guardians and Galaxy in respect to each other. I had Iron Man at 4. That was easy enough for me, but I had Guardians at number 2 initially, and I'm like, well, maybe put it at 3, maybe put the Avengers down. And I'm just like, for me, the Avengers is just such an amazing culmination of everything that came before it, while also standing as its own piece. And I think the Guardians of the Galaxy also accomplishes that same thing, but I think that Guardians of the Galaxy for the first 20-30 minutes has to find its footing, and its villain, as we talked about, Ronan, I think is lackluster, and I think the Avengers has a better intro and a better villain, even if it doesn't hit as hard in its third act as I would say that the Guardians does. I think that overall, again, I have to put it ever so slightly above Guardians of the Galaxy. So that's my rationale for the same ranking. Interestingly enough, and Andrew, let's wrap this up then.
Well, I'm going to mix it up a little bit because number 4 for me is Ant-Man. Number 3 is Avengers. And I think I'm going to surprise everyone with this. But number 2 for me is Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 1 is Winter Soldier. For the longest time...
Okay. I was surprised. I definitely thought you were going to go Guardians number 1.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I don't know how to put this. I enjoy Guardians of the Galaxy more than I enjoy Winter Soldier. But Winter Soldier is a far superior movie. So for that reason, it's number 1. It's a better movie. It's better crafted. It's a much more consistent experience. And it's, although Guardians of the Galaxy speaks to me in ways that Winter Soldier just doesn't. It's not, you know what I mean? I don't know. I really like my space opera comedy movie, So, but I can recognize that Winter Soldier is it's a very well crafted film. So for that reason, it's number 1. And Avengers is, it's the quintessential comic book team up movie, and it was really well done. You got Loki, he's a great villain, and everything else. It's a really awesome fucking movie. And then number 4, Ant-Man's really cool because it was in a lot of ways another origin story, but it was so fresh and so different and funny, and I really enjoyed the whole film in a way that I think a lot of those other origin stories didn't quite, I don't think they quite stuck the landing as well as Ant-Man did. I really enjoyed Ant-Man. I thought it was hilarious, and I thought it felt fresh in it. In a lot of ways, I felt like I wasn't necessarily watching a comic book movie. I was watching a heist film, about a guy that happens to have a super suit and he can shrink and shit. So, I don't know. I really, really enjoyed Ant-Man, and I thought it brought something fresh and different to the table, and much like Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy and Winter Soldier did. So,
good call.
Yeah, Good call. It didn't feel samey in any sort of way for me. So
yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, I actually think I totally skipped over favorite moments in Ant-Man. Now that I think about it, am I mistaken?
No, yeah, we skipped over.
Okay, well, let's backtrack ever so slightly and just very briefly touch on that. Because you were talking about Ant-Man, I was like, wait, there was something I wanted to say about that. And I'm like, don't think I said it about it. So I'll just put mine out there as the third act sequence where they're fighting in Cassie's bedroom. You know, the train tracks, and that's all awesome, and the fucking big Thomas the Tank Engine in the window and blowing up big. Like the whole, like that to me is the best part of Ant-Man, is having fun with the technology. So that's mine. So I apologize to our listeners for mixing things up here and forgetting things, but we've been going for a while, so I hope you understand. I'll let you guys kind of add on that, and then we'll pretty much.
I like the cousin sequences. I thought this was hilarious. I remember those from when I watched it originally in theaters. I thought they were hilarious. I also thought it was hilarious watching that old footage when what's his face is showing the people, hey, listen, this guy's a myth. His name's Ant-Man. Blah blah blah. Where he's not a myth anymore, bitch. I got footage of him or whatever, you know what I mean? And he's shooting a machine gun, it zooms in, and he's shooting a machine gun. People are flying all around, it pauses and zooms in on him. I thought that was really funny too. And then the training. I enjoyed the training, where he's trying to jump through the hole, and he's running with the ants, and he keeps popping up out of the ground. I don't know. I thought it was fun. Gets his ass kicked by Hope a couple of times. It's pretty funny. I don't know. I enjoyed the whole movie. I thought it was consistently a good experience. I really liked it.
Yeah, I'd say my favorite sequences were the two Michael Pena, Luis storytellings, where he's explaining the story, narrating the other characters, but in his own voice. And I think you can watch it just for those scenes. They're that funny.
All right. Well, better late than never. All right. I mean, that's more or less it. So, our next episode, we're going to be talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 3. We've got another 6 movies that have come out, are already out now, leading up to Avengers Infinity War. And, as we go forward into Infinity War, we know pretty much the big thing is Thanos collecting the Infinity Stones. Yeah. So I guess we could do a brief head count of kind of where things are as of the end of Phase 2. So I guess we have the whereabouts of 4 stones accounted for. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, and I think that's all that Thor sees in his vision too in Age of Ultron.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So from the top, we've got the Space Stone, the Tesseract, which we now know is on Asgard as of the end of Phase 2, right? That's being housed in Odin's vault.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one. The Ether, which we saw in Thor: The Dark World, we know was delivered to the Collector. So that should be still sitting in his collection, assuming it didn't get blown to high hell.
That's the Reality Stone, Galaxy. Correct?
The Reality Stone, yep. Guardians of the Galaxy, we see the Orb, or the Power Stone, which is now in the hands of the Nova Corps on Xandar, right?
Yep.
And last but not least, the Mind Stone is still firmly housed within the head of the Vision, right? So, wherever he's fucking off to, that's probably where the Mind Stone is.
Yeah, let's hope it stays that way, but...
Indeed. So
we shall see.
Yeah, we have 4 of 6 accounted for. So as of now, we're missing 2. We're missing the Time Stone and the Soul Stone. I reckon we'll know at least where one of those pops up in the next couple movies when we talk about it on our next episode. And as for the 6th stone, I don't know. We might have to wait for Infinity War to find out. Who's to say?
Still a mystery.
So final thoughts. You guys have any parting words before we just really kind of do a little housekeeping and call it a day?
I got nothing else to say, man.
No gherkins?
No gherkins. Yeah. All right, then. Well,
that's it.
Given that we've been going on for quite some time, yet again, I will not delay any further. Thank you guys for tuning in to another bonus episode. Again, if you are a Patreon supporter, thank you so much for helping us out. That's awesome. And if you're not, definitely look into those avenues to help us out. If you've enjoyed either phase 1 or this episode, depending on kind of, what you've been listening to, then I would strongly encourage you to at least look at that as an option to help us out and, get some rewards in the long run. So watchreviewrepeat.com/premium or patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat, and that will get you exactly where you need to be. Our regular website is watchreviewrepeat.com. We put out episodes on a weekly basis, or at least we try to. I am at Cbro360. Andrew is at DMeadows91, and Henry, you are at Heroic Henrique. Is that correct?
Yep.
All right, so follow everyone on Twitter, except maybe Andrew, because he doesn't really use it a whole lot.
That's true. I never see you post anything.
I don't post it. I don't even know how to fucking use it.
Well, add him on Facebook, maybe, or, whatever. Who cares?
Or Snapchat.
Snapchat.
Yeah, I'm
on
pretty
Snapchat.
active on the snaps, yeah.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Our podcast Twitter is at WRRPod, and you can find us on Facebook as well, so give us a like there. We post all of our updates, all of our new episodes. All that information is widely available, and we have a Gmail as well, watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. Our intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. So that is going to officially do it for me. Again, thank you guys. Thank you guys for supporting us and hanging out with us for a few hours. We tried to keep it shorter this time. We failed in our mission as per freaking usual. So look forward to our next bonus episode on Phase 3, which will be coming sometime in April. Otherwise, look for our next regular episode. So, that's it for me. I'll let you guys kind of take us out, but thank you guys again. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, to be fair, these movies are really long to watch. So you could listen for 3 hours or rewatch 12 2 and change hour movies. So, we gave you a little plot synopsis. It's long, but you get a lot of movies in those hours. So I think it's fine. It's fine. That's it for me. Thank you all for joining in.
All right.
Have a good night.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a little callback to our first episode. Slap at the bass, man. Have a good one. Later.